Bloodbath. I cannot believe the bloodbath story actually persisted. They sent out a memo or something, the Democratic Party and their strategists, to all the media companies to run this hoax story that Trump called for a bloodbath, as if to imply he wants to kill people. My favorite headline, of course, was NPR. They ran a headline that said something to the effect of, Donald Trump says some migrants are not people and warns of a bloodbath if he's not elected, as if to imply like he's talking about migrants going around killing people or something, like they're zombies. I have no idea. But what was really happening was Donald Trump was making reference to the auto industry. And he said, if you elect me, I will stop the outsourcing of jobs so that we can make cars here, and I won't let them sell those cars here. But if I don't get elected, it'll be a bloodbath. Of course, he was referring to the market, the economy, the auto industry. It'd be very, very bad for the auto industry and your jobs if they do this. Well, man, MSNBC went nuts. Joe Scarborough was like, we're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. We know what he means. Hillary Clinton said, oh, bloodbath. They're all just doubling down like their brains don't work. And my friends, it may be because their brains don't work. But here's where it gets good. Joe Biden has already cut a campaign ad using the tiniest snippet of Trump saying bloodbath. It's remarkable that there are people this stupid that are going to fall for this. I'm hoping it's not the case. And I'm hoping the reason why Trump's polls are actually going up is because the American people are not so stupid they're going to fall for this. We got a lot of news to talk about. I mean, Trump, his lawyer said they can't afford the bond for the appeal in New York. You've got Tyson Foods laying people off and then saying they want to start hiring from the asylum seekers. You know, this country is being gutted. There's a lot of news today to talk about, but we're going to start with that bloodbath story. Before we do get started, head over to castbrew.com to buy coffee. Check out Appalachian Nights, everybody's favorite. We are constantly selling out, but we do have the ground and whole bean available right now. Definitely pick up Stand Your Grounds, and it's your last chance to get Mr. Boca's Pumpkin Spice Experience, because once this run is done, we will no longer be renewing it as Mr. Bocas has passed. But we will be launching at some point in the future a new blend called The Legend of Mr. Bocas, but this run will be done. Also, don't forget to go to timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member to support our work directly, and you'll get access to our uncensored members-only show coming up tonight and our Discord server. The Discord server may be the most important thing about being a member. First, when you become a member, you're supporting all the work we do. Second, when you're in the Discord server, you're meeting like-minded people and helping build community and build a culture, and that's the first step. Digitally is good. Our physical location is better. That's going to be in Martinsburg, West Virginia. Elite members will get key fobs where they can actually swipe in and go hang out at our social club when that opens up, hopefully in the next couple of months. But the whole point of all of this is getting Casper locations all across the country, creating physical locations where people can hang out, share ideas, and help organize. And that'll help us build a parallel economy, build and restore our culture and win. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Dan Ball.
Tim, thank you so much for having me on, man. I appreciate it. It was a bit of a trek from San Diego, where One America News is, to get all the way over here to D.C. and then drive in the middle of nowhere to your compound. I love it, by the way.
It's great.
What a fun life you have. I'm jealous as hell right now, to be honest.
Well, you got chickens.
You got chickens out there. Yeah. You've got a poker table. Can we play a little poker label? Maybe?
Those are Fridays. Oh, unfortunately.
I came on the wrong night.
Wrong night.
But thank you so much for inviting me. And so we can share what's happening at OAN. We can chew over some of the news headlines that are bogus.
And you're a host over at OAN.
Yeah. Is this the point where I tell everybody who I am?
Yeah.
If they don't know? Okay, I'll give you the 30-second version. So my name's Dan Ball. I host a little show called Real America. It's on at 8 p.m. So it's actually on right now, but there's a fill-in host. I've been doing that about 3.5 years for OAN. That's the One America News Network, which has been out for about 11 years. So we're one of the baby young networks out there. Prior to that, I ran for Congress in 2018 in California as a Republican, got my ass kicked, but I learned a lot about how dirty politics are during that run. Prior to that, I was a local news guy for like 20 some years in places like Philadelphia, Palm Springs, Grand Rapids, Toledo, you name it. And so I've been in this industry for 32 years now. And I got to say, if it weren't for folks like you and people doing independent journalism, podcasts, citizen journalism, I don't think the American people would know what the hell's going on, because legacy media has been lying to them for decades, and it's only gotten worse in the Trump era. And so tonight, I hope we have that discussion about a lot of these headlines and tell people the truth. So I commend you and thank you for inviting somebody like me on, but also just for what you guys have been doing the last few years in spitting truth and speaking truth to power.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, brother.
We got Hannah Claire hanging out.
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. I'm really glad to be part of that team. Speaking of which, you know who's here tonight? Chris Bloodbath Carr joining us.
That's right. That's what they call me in the newsroom.
Yeah, that's true.
Very hot term. Yeah, I'm the executive editor at SCNR.com, publishing the work of outstanding journalists just like Hannah Claire Brimlow right here. Happy to be here tonight. Let's do it.
Right on.
It's raining blood, everybody. Yeah, go to DonLemonParty.com. Tim just bought the website, so
There's
I can
nothing
show
there.
it now. But still, DonLemonParty.com is a great site to have. It's a great real estate. I'm sure
Thanks
you
for
guys
telling me
know.
what lemon party is. I didn't know that, by the way.
We'll keep
Look it
that.
up.
We'll save that one for the after show. Don't look it up.
Okay.
So one of the other big stories is Don Lemon put out his interview with Elon Musk.
Right.
And one of the segments, Elon Musk explains his concerns over DEI, explaining a conditional hypothetical to which Don Lemon can't comprehend. I kid you not. Elon Musk says, if we lower the standards in healthcare, you will get lower unqualified healthcare and people will eventually die. And then Don Lemon goes, but no one's died. And that is quite literally an IQ test conditional hypothetical question right there. And it's like, no wonder Elon Musk nuked Don Lemon.
Which goes to show you just how stupid these talking heads are on the mainstream media. He couldn't understand. Elon explained it to him almost 3 times, if I recall, in that clip, right?
He tried really hard.
No, I'm not saying they're dying now, which they probably are. And let's be real. The DEI, CRT bullshit has brought down standards in the airline industry, education, healthcare, and I can go, the military, we can go on and on. Yes, people are dying and will die. So Elon was correct. But the fact that Don Lemon couldn't get that,
It's crazy.
isn't it, Tim?
But we'll bring that clip up. Let's jump to this first story. I can't say I'm surprised. Joe Biden is what is the opposite of integrity and honor? He's a dishonorable man. Biden campaign cuts a digital ad using Trump's bloodbath remarks. Before I'll play the clip for you in a second, but take a look at this. I love this from NPR. Trump says some migrants are not people and warns of a bloodbath if he loses. This is amazing. The clip in question was Donald Trump saying, they're going to try and move auto manufacturing to Mexico. I will put a tariff on those cars at 100% so no one will buy them.
Correct.
And only if I get elected. If I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole country. And he's speaking in the context directly of the auto industry.
He said it.
Now,
Crying out loud.
here's what the Biden administration has just put out. I'm going to play the video for you.
Get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath, and it's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
Jews will not replace
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Are you willing to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
There'll be a lot of pardons and commutations of January 6th defendants.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell your supporters now, no matter what, no violence.
And it's going to be a bloodbath.
It's going to be a bloodbath.
I like that his new campaign slogan is just "Stop Trump." Like,
Yeah.
No shame.
He was headed in that direction,
They
yeah.
never talk about their platform.
There
And
isn't
Americans
one.
have been living it for 3 years, so they know it's shit. Look at everything in our country right now. And you can't tell me prior to the COVID scam, I'm allowed to say that, right, Tim? Prior to that, the country was doing pretty well. Let's think about it. 401ks were through the roof. We had the lowest unemployment in every sector for age, race, gender, you name it. There were more jobs. I remember reading that report in 18? There were more jobs available than there were people in the country. And yet, this is all they've got. Every single one of the DAs that's gone after Trump, every one of these liberal, radical, crazy Democrats, it's not, here's how I'm going to clean up crime in the street. Here's how I'm going to fix the economy for you. Here's how I'm going to get people to join our military again so we have some national defense. No, I'm going to get Trump. I'm going to stop Trump. I'm going to get Trump. It's going to be a bloodbath.
He's not a good enough president to defend his legacy, right? He can't point to anything right now and say, you see this economic windfall? That's me. Like, you see how safe the border is? He can't say any of these things because it's all falling apart. Right. So he can say, Trump is worse. Trump is the worst option. Be afraid of him. Not just like don't like him, disagree with his policies, but be actively afraid that he is going to bring in he's going to activate some sort of weird cell of people that want to harm you. When, that didn't happen under Trump. None of these things, these dark positions come true. But Chris and I worked on this story today, and, going through the mainstream headlines is almost hysterical because the whole thing, I mean, you'll have to talk about this, was, doom and gloom. Yeah. Trump just predicts end of world. It was constant. It wasn't, and they had issues with everything. He's saying there's going to be no more elections if he doesn't win.
Right. He'll never leave this time because he didn't leave before. Wait a minute, Joe. You're the president. They're literally saying he won't leave like he wouldn't leave before. He left, people. We saw him get on the damn helicopter and leave.
But the funny thing about that is,
this is crazy.
You've got a video of Trump saying, there may not be another election unless I win, while they simultaneously say, if Trump wins, there will never be another election. Like Rachel Maddow screaming it.
Oh, I heard that. Yeah. And Joe Scarborough, those MSNBC people, Joy Reid, talk about no shame. I've been doing this 32 years, Tim, and I got to tell you, man, these hosts, it's so despicable what they do to the American people, gaslighting them, pitting each other against one another, lying constantly, like this bloodbath story. Not one liberal agency out there told the frickin' truth about that comment. They all, from Politico to the New York Times to all the social media sites, and then all the mainstream folks, CNN, MSNBC, they all said the same thing. Trump said bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath. They never put it into context.
Well, let's put into context. We got this tweet from Tenet Media.
Oh, here we go.
The mainstream media is having a meltdown over Donald Trump's use of the word bloodbath. Why is it okay for them to use it? And it starts off with good old Joe Scarborough and Michael Brzezinski.
Columnist Charles Blow has a new piece for the New York Times entitled A Biden Bloodbath.
2018 midterms, you can bet that they 100% are fearing a slaughter. In fact, the word bloodbath and massacre come up frequently.
The Republican Party will be destroyed. It's going to be a bloodbath.
There's going to be a bloodbath one way or the other.
Bloodbath for Bernie Sanders.
It's been a bloodbath there, shaping up to be a bloodbath.
Head off a bloodbath in next year's crucial midterm.
Off-year elections are often a bloodbath.
This week's bloodbath for Democrats, a bloodbath at the ballot box.
Yep.
Oh, let's see. You had a guy in there lying about flying on a chopper that got hit. You had a gal in there who's the most racist host I've ever seen. They're all such lying scum.
Bloodbath. I do think it's kind of funny that we use bloodbath as a metaphor for all of these like crises. As it's a particularly, macabre way of describing someone's getting fired from their job. But you can't act like Donald Trump was using it in one context when y'all use it in the exact same context. That's why I'm just, I think it's a gift. I think it's a beautiful gift.
I agree with you.
Because now what you do is, first thing I'll say is when I saw the clip on Saturday, I thought it was over. They tried running the story. I thought by Monday it'd be done because it was crushed instantly.
No.
But here's what you do. Take the full context clip. You can find it on X of Trump in full context saying, they're going to build these cars in Mexico. We're going to put a tariff on them. And then what you do is if you know someone who's not heard the story at all, they're trying to saturate the market. You, as Ian would describe it, you inoculate your friends by giving them the correct context first. Mm-hmm. This is how you break them out of the matrix, though. You show someone this video, be like, hey, take a look, watch this video right now. And they're going to watch this 20-second long video, and they're going to be like, okay, and you'll be like, Trump's saying that if he doesn't get elected, the auto industry is going to be in shambles. And they're going to go, okay, and then later on, when they're at the airport or a hotel and CNN comes on and they hear the bloodbath thing, they're going to go, what? I just watched that video.
Right.
That's not what Trump said. But if someone, it's like whichever bit of information they get first. Ian was saying that he'll send his mom something in the news as fast as possible so that he'll inoculate her from the fake news later. So this is a perfect example.
Yeah, it is.
If you send the real video to your parents, friends, and family and say, watch this, then when the news comes out and lies, they'll go, wait a minute. But if it's the other way around, what'll happen is they'll watch MSNBC. They'll go, Trump said a bloodbath. Oh, no. And then after that, if you try sending the real video, they'll go, I don't want to watch it. I cannot watch that man.
Right. Or they'll think you edited it. You'll be like,
yeah.
No, it's in reverse. How could I add context, add words Trump said? I'm showing you the full clip. And I love the fact that they had to bring back the very fine people in that ad.
Yeah.
They're bringing that one back when the majority of Americans have learned, maybe not majority, but a bunch, have learned that was taken out of context as well, because they didn't play the 37 seconds after the very fine people comment where he did condemn the assholes that committed those crimes. And they're doing the same thing with this one. But I think, Tim, because of shows like yours, because of Elon buying X and allowing spaces, I was on one yesterday and the day before, people are already talking about this when it broke, and millions of people now are hearing the actual full comment ahead of time. And so I think the American people, like you just said, Tim, are waking up. They're seeing this one and blatantly knowing, okay, now not only does the Biden regime lied to me about what Trump says, but now I can see that my newscasters, the people I trust, are lying to me, because this one is spreading like wildfire quick.
Maybe Biden still raised $53 million reportedly. I mean, that's what he's reporting.
Yeah, this kind of logical approach to deprogramming would not work with any ish lib that I know. And I'll tell you why, okay? So it's an old joke. This person is convinced that they're dead. So this therapist that they get is really intelligent. He's like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to explain to them that they're not dead because I'm going to help them understand that dead people don't bleed. I'm going to get them to understand that over the course of a series of sessions, and I'm going to prick him. And he does, and he bleeds. He goes, see? He goes, oh my God, dead people can bleed. You see? That's what's going to happen. So when they see this, this ad about, help me stop, let's stop Trump, and the thump, 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 thump. That ad is powerful enough because it like affirms the crazed reality that they think they're living in.
And their fears they already have, right?
Yeah.
Because those fears have already been based on lies for the last, since 2015, since the man came down the escalator and they started lying on that first comment. Remember that one about the illegal immigrants?
That's a long time. That's a long time to live in derangement.
Right.
It is like a matrix bubble reality where, I was thinking this, it's been longer than 7 years since they started. It's been 9 years since they started the media campaign hoaxes against Donald Trump. 2015, when he was running, is when they started lying. They have crafted a reality of fake news and information for almost a decade. And I was thinking about it. Isn't it something like every 7 years, every cell in your body is replaced?
That's what they say.
So that would mean there are every human today is crafted from beyond the point of where they've lied. So every fiber of their being has existed in this world for the past near decade. It's hard to break those people out of that.
Oh, it's a lot of deprogramming. I know. I mean, I try to do it on our show, but again, because there's so many lies out there about our network, about your show, just telling someone I work at OAN, the first reaction I get is, I said it to somebody the other day, where was it? Maybe at the airport or on the plane or whatever. And somebody overheard it. And immediately it was, oh, OAN. Oh, that's a real network. You guys are Russian propaganda. I'm like, oh, did you read Wikipedia? Good on you. Good job, ma'am. Do you actually know who owns us? The sweet 82-year-old man, Mr. Herring, his two sons. He's really from Louisiana. The kids were born and raised in California. They have no ties to Russia. Trump doesn't call us and tell us what to do. But you read Wikipedia, you watch the mainstream, and they tell you OAN lies to you every day, and it's controlled by Russia. You can't deprogram that. That's hard. But I think the folks that are in the middle, and let's be real, you win an election with independents, with undecided. Those crazies that you're talking about, Tim, we're never going to get to them. You're right, Chris. It's not going to happen. They're going to buy this commercial and think Trump said bloodbath, and he's going to kill people. He's going to throw people in prisons and do all kinds of crazy crap. Like you heard De Niro the other night with Bill Maher, Friday before last, going, he's going to come after me. He's going to shut your show down, Bill. Really? Come on. Because he did all that the first 4 years.
In response to this, let's jump to this next story.
Uh-oh.
In response to the bloodbath hoax, people launched the hashtag Biden's border bloodbath. And this is actually very, very clever. Currently, the #1 trend in the United States on X is hashtag Biden's border bloodbath. The reason why it's so brilliant is that when people start searching for bloodbath, you replace the Democrat narrative with an anti-Democrat narrative. So taking control of those words. And that is
a real bloodbath, by the way. That is a real bloodbath.
Shifting the focus to a real problem instead of a fake one. But here's the fascinating thing. So first of all, I got my tweet in, just hashtag Biden's border bloodbath. But I want to give an honorable mention to Charlie Kirk, who deserves all the credit. I don't know if this was his idea, but I Google searched it. Charlie Kirk had a show on February 28th of this year titled Biden's border bloodbath comes to campus. And I was like, did he really get that? Because maybe that was his idea. I don't know. But, great timing. Great timing.
Great timing. Yeah, because we all know Trump said economic bloodbath about the auto industry. But when you look at what's happening with the border in 3 years and 2 months, we've allowed somewhere between 10 and 12. Let's be real. If the government's telling us 7.9, it's 10 to 12 because you got gotaways and they're not giving us the facts. How many fentanyl deaths? How many American citizens have been raped, beaten, or killed? How many have we lost since Democrats and liberals always say they're for these downtrodden people, do you know that over 1,700 have died on the way here? How about the rape trees along the way where the coyotes hang panties of little girls in trees in Mexico? And that's my path to bring my children that I'm going to traffic into slavery. So it is a real bloodbath that Biden's created.
Yeah, this one refers to a literal bloodbath, whereas Trump was speaking figuratively.
Yes. So I commend whoever's doing that. Keep it up. Let's make it number one. Keep it trending.
You know what? Vice.com, for instance, they're gone. We're looking at more and more layoffs every day. There's a bloodbath in digital media, and it's been ongoing for a long time. So
CNN had a bloodbath. Remember, they closed down the big Atlanta office and laid off tons of people.
Oh yeah,
last year.
It just keeps happening.
Bloodbath.
So I'm actually feeling pretty good because the narrative machine their ratings are collapsing. Now we're hearing that it's CNN, even Anderson Cooper, and Wolf Blitzer may be on the firing block. Ooh. So yeah, they could be out soon too.
They don't get to step down. They don't get to honorably resign or anything. They're going to get fired.
They're getting paid millions of dollars, and I have to wonder about this. I mean, how does CNN I don't understand how these networks even made money to begin with. I suppose when you have a locked in audience, a guarantee because there's so few channels, but with the rise of the internet, it was obvious this was coming.
Yeah, Fox is the only one, even though they're down on some of their demos and some of their shows, 25 to 40%, they're still making big money because they have that locked in over 45, 50, my age bracket, conservatives around the country, in the Midwest and the South especially. So their advertising dollars are still decent. That's why they can afford to still give Hannity and Ingram and the rest of them millions. But it's dying on the vine too. Right? Like I said, it's dying on the vine.
So the average age, I think, of Fox News viewers, a Fox News viewer is 62. CNN, I think, is 65, and MSNBC is 72. I could be wrong. I believe those are the numbers we pulled up a couple weeks ago. That means MSNBC is on the verge of total collapse. And I hate to be a dick, but 72, it's like 73.4 or something is the average male life expectancy, and a woman, I believe, might be like 76 or something, which means MSNBC's viewers are going to start shuffling loose this mortal coil. And look, it's not, I'm not trying to be grim. This is a natural part of all life and all generational cycles.
You're just stating facts.
Well, and this is why businesses pursue younger audiences, right? They need them to stay alive.
Yeah,
to,
the number
to buy
one
their
demo,
product.
you want the 25 to 45, or 35, really. You want that money. Nobody wants over 45, over 40 anymore. Everybody wants the 20 and 30-year-old money because that's the longevity money. You don't want somebody 50, 60, 70. Like you just said, Tim, will be dead soon. But thanks for that, by the way.
Well,
I just hit 50 this year.
And you got 20 some odd years, but
you're still valuable to Fox.
Thank you.
CNN's got 7 to 8 years on average before their average viewer is going to be passing away and no longer watching. And then that's it. They will have nothing. They will have no ratings.
Look, they should have been pro raising the birth rate, right? Because there's no one after them anyways, so everything is going to collapse unless you have people. The thing is, the tradition of watching cable news died away over time. And unless you can also convert people back to it, which you won't be able to, the internet is unstoppable in that manner. There's really nothing left to pursue there. They're just not agile the way they need to be as technology changes.
I don't think they can be.
Yeah.
I don't know that the stodgy, authoritative, talentless cable news networks could possibly adapt to modern contextual news delivery.
I agree.
I don't think it's possible.
Look at the Don Lemon. Case in point, right?
That's the point that Elon made, yeah.
You cannot put Don Lemon you cannot have Don Lemon on a show like this hosting a 2-hour-long raw conversational show discussing news topics.
He wouldn't be able to hang. Look, he couldn't even understand what Elon was trying to convey to him.
He would push his earpiece in. What should I say now?
Yeah, right, to the EP, his executive producer. Is that okay? Is that a good question?
So theoretically, what these networks could do is try to create modern conversational information delivery, but I don't think they have the mental capacity to do so.
You see some guys trying to do it, right? Like case in point, Chris Cuomo. Gets fired from CNN.
He's gone. That's the thing.
Right. He went over to News Nation, which is owned by, not Sinclair, Nexstar, the old WGN superstation. And he's trying to reinvent himself, right? He had Tucker on the other day, and he does a lot of monologue right to the camera, trying to be conversational, trying to bring up common things that normal Americans talk about. Yet he's been in this bubble of a rich, primetime news anchor at CNN for decades, also coming from the corrupt Cuomo family. I'm sure he'll hate me for saying that. Don't really care. Sorry, Chris, not sorry. But he's trying to reinvent himself now in his 50s to hold on to an audience. Now he's trying to speak directly to them and say, I'm one of you and I understand you and have a conversation. It's not working. The News Nation's numbers suck. Nobody's going to News Nation. I mean, until they canceled OAN, we were shooting up. We had a couple hours where we were beating Newsmax and we were getting close to some of the shows on Fox. And then they canceled us.
That's probably why.
Well, there's lots of reasons.
But
speaking truth about the election, the vaccines, COVID, the Biden regime. Yeah.
People like Chris Cuomo, they don't know how to deliver information in a way a younger audience expects. Joe Rogan does. And whether it was intentional or not, it's just raw. Elon Musk was saying this about Don Lemon. He thought it was going to be authentic. It's not. It's canned CNN stuff, which doesn't work. Right. So what's the point of even bringing that show to the platform? And
he begged for a bunch of goodies that were ridiculous. So that's why he fired his ass. And but of course, he's playing it as he didn't like the way I did the interview. I asked tough questions, so he didn't keep our deal.
Well, they never signed that deal. But this is typical of so his talent agency, Don Lemon's United Talent, likely sent Elon Musk a ridiculous contract because this is how the industry works. An agency will be like, oh, you want a contract from us? They will send you the stupidest thing because they're hoping to slip one past you. They're hoping that Elon would be like, oh, sure, I guess. And
wasn't it $8 million a year with a $5 million signing bonus? He wanted one of the new cyber trucks. He wanted first class tickets and a hotel suite for him and the husband to go to Vegas.
This is the contract I also gave Tim. Just so everyone
did Tim sign it? Did you get that?
Well, I'm still waiting on my cyber
negotiations.
truck.
The contract that I got from one of the big agencies was, I think, like 70 pages long. No, maybe it was 100 and something pages long. And which, I mean, it's an insane amount of money to have that redlined. And so I read it and I threw it in the garbage. And this is one of the big agencies that handles news and media, entertainment, TV shows, basically said that they would own everything. And then they would decide what they give me. This was a long time ago. This was back in like 2013. And then in 2018, I had another deal with another big distribution network. And they also sent me a large contract for no reason with a bunch of ridiculously verbose, nonsensical language that did nothing but fluff, probably so I wouldn't want to read it. But it included things like, we now own all of your companies. You sign away all rights and ownership and claims, blah, 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 blah. And so I emailed them back and I was like, why did you send me this? And they said, this is totally normal for business.
Shit, yeah.
And they said,
throw him under the bus, name him. Who was it?
Send it to your lawyer. He'll redline it and send it back. And I said, you want me to spend $5,000 so I can start negotiating with you? Send me a real contract and we'll talk. And they were like, if this is normal business, then I told them to go F themselves. And I stopped. That was it. I'm like, if this is how you do business, you're wasting my time.
You know what I did, Mr. Herring? Handshake, 1-page contract. 1-page contract, handshake.
Nice.
That's what we did. We do it every year. 1 year, up, re-up. I don't do multi-years. There's no lawyer language for 170 pages. It's, there's your pay. Here's what you're expected to do. Here's your medical benefits. Sign on the line. That's it. Mm-hmm. I get to say what I want. I get to do what I want. I mean, when I was hired there, we call him Mr. H. Mr. H was like, we've only been doing this about 10 years. How long have you been doing this? Over 30. Well, then you know more than us, so go do it. That was it. You don't get that at CNN. I got friends that work at Fox, CNN, not MSNBC, ABC, NBC, the big ones in New York, the big old three. And I talk to them and it's like, there is so much corporate control. As you said, Tim, these contracts are ridiculous. They own them. They own their image. They own the rights to everything they do. And you better toe the line and say what they want you to say or your ass is out. Look at Tucker.
But that's the thing about these hosts is they sit there, they read a prompter and they go, huh? So when you take Don Lemon out of that controlled environment and sit him down with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk tries saying something very simple like, if X then Y, he goes, huh?
Yeah.
But Y didn't happen. I'm saying X is happening and it will likely lead to Y.
it, right.
And he goes, but it didn't happen. And it's like, oh, geez, dude.
You're so right there. They are canned and you'll see them all the time holding the ear because that executive producer is in their ear telling them. You'll see Maddow even do it. Oh, my producer's telling me that they're feeding them things. They can't think for themselves any longer. They live in this bubble in Manhattan. The car brings them to the MSNB studios, takes them back to their penthouse or their house in the country. They've got their millions. They have their slaves that wait on them because that's what they are. They got servants, even though they act like liberals and, oh my gosh, reparations for black people. Yet they've got people they throw around, treat like dog shit. I've talked with some of these folks who work as an assistant or a makeup artist or a dietitian for these rich ass news anchors and hosts. They treat normal people like shit. They're in a bubble. They have no clue what's really going on in this world. And that's why I think people gravitate towards our network and my show as well, because I throw a few shits in now and then, and I've been dead ass broke, and I'm a regular dude. I serve my country. I've got a child I'm trying to raise in this crazy ass world. And when I speak to folks now, I don't do the broadcasting voice and read the prompter like I did for 30 years. I just talk to folks. That's what people are starving for. Just talk to them and tell them the damn truth.
Let's talk about Tim. Let's talk about Biden's border bloodbath here.
Yeah.
In this story from the New York Post, Tyson Foods hoping to hire over 40,000 immigrants for labor manufacturing jobs report. The first criticism I have is for the New York Post, because this is a fake news headline. They're not immigrants, they're criminal aliens.
Thank you. Illegal aliens. Thank you.
Criminal aliens is the legal term. Illegal alien is a political term. Illegal immigrant, criminal alien. Because they
Agreed. I'll change to that. I use I'm going to use criminal. I like it.
This is the thing, we get, who was it who said, I'm sorry for Biden, apologized for calling that murderer, alleged murderer, an illegal.
The one that bashed Lake and Riley's head in. That piece of trash. Yes.
Maybe not a trial, to be fair, hasn't been convicted.
Right. So he said illegal and then apologized for it. And I said, I'm deeply offended as well. And I'm glad Joe Biden apologized for saying illegal. I just don't like his follow-up. The appropriate term is criminal alien. Someone who crosses the border illegally is a criminal alien. That's how they describe them in law.
Thank you.
Illegal, people say illegal alien, and then they're like, no, say illegal alien. That's the term, or illegal immigrant. I'm like, no, this is criminal alien. I mean, that's
well. Look how they've softened
keep it academic.
Right? During the Obama years, it switched to undocumented worker, and if you just saw in the last 3 to 4 weeks, the White House started putting out press releases, and I've seen it now in California from local lawmakers, Democrats. They've changed undocumented worker to newcomers. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Now it's newcomers.
Illegal
Softened
immigrant.
us even more.
Illegal immigrant is that. They softened criminal alien into illegal immigrant.
Yep.
So they could change the action the individual took from a status. And then they changed illegal immigrant to undocumented immigrant to change status. And now they're saying newcomers. And then they said, actually, in between, that's unauthorized immigrant.
When I was growing up, it was
crime to cross the border. And so legally, they were always referred to as criminal aliens.
When I was growing up, I always knew progressive. I grew up in New England. Progressive parents who would say, "Well, they're just undocumented citizens. They're part of our communities. They're citizens. They do stuff, but they're undocumented." Which, again, they're people who broke the law by being in the country. So I don't really think that's a very civic mindset. But nonetheless, we're not supposed to be exclusionary. I don't know. It seems crazy.
Let's jump to the news. Tyson Foods says it's eager to hire over 40,000 asylum seekers, they call it, and migrants arriving in the United States, according to a report from Bloomberg. The multinational food conglomerate is allegedly hoping to hire personnel from the massive influx of migrants coming into the country. Here's what I'd say. If Donald Trump gets elected, the first thing he should do is, should Tyson hire any of these criminal aliens, Tyson should face serious criminal penalties.
Yes.
It's a corporation, so we don't actually do much other than take their money from them. But hiring people who criminally entered the country and then offering them jobs. But you see, here's the real deal. Tyson's hoping the quote unquote border security bill, which it's not, the amnesty bill gets passed because it would allow for work permits for criminal aliens. Basically, the issue the Democrats have with all of the border crossings is that they are currently criminal aliens. The bill they proposed that they want everyone to sign, and they're calling a border security bill, it will actually end illegal immigration. Did you know this?
The Senate bill. Not HR 2 from the House, Republicans. The Senate bill.
No. The House.
HR 2.
That funded Ukraine, Israel, and had money for the border.
Oh, that new one.
Yeah,
not the one that's never been signed.
That would absolutely end illegal immigration in this country.
I was the one Freedom Caucus brought up in the House, which nobody's signed.
If the bill that the Democrats want signed would end illegal immigration by legalizing all of it. It would no longer be illegal to enter the country, so there wouldn't be illegal immigration.
And then what would the Republicans just complain about? You know what I mean? No, I mean, this is what I find really interesting, which is that it's the total replacement of people who don't agree with this mindset, right? They're saying, we would like to have a new class of citizens here because you guys don't agree and let us run the country the way we want to. And I think that is very antithetical to the American experience. We had immigration for years and years. That's how we got this country was built. But the idea was that we are coming here as people who want to represent an American value system, to participate and contribute. And I think by opening the door to the idea that anyone who shows up and lives in whatever community they decide is there's no way to ask them to become a citizen because you are fragmenting your country to people who are just arriving and taking part in a system they don't actually want to be part of. In fact, they are typically also sending money to family overseas or, in other countries. I can understand the desire to help your family. On the other hand, I don't think breaking the law by entering another country is the way to do that.
But there's no other modern society nation, Europe or wherever you look, that does what we do, that allows this. And then also, they make you embrace, well, they used to, make you embrace their heritage and become part of their society. We don't do that anymore. There's a soundbite that's making the rounds again from Obama when he was running first time for office. And he was literally saying some of the immigration laws he wanted to put into place were penalizing these companies like Tyson so strong they would never hire. Of course, he called them undocumented workers, but at least he was pushing for that. So what the hell happened from 2008 to 2024 that every past president before Trump has said that phrase? We've all seen the clips. We're a nation of immigrant, but we're a nation of laws. And we got to follow them. Clinton said it. W said it. Obama said it. All the way back to Reagan. They all said it.
Not anymore.
But not anymore.
And I don't think anyone's taking consideration what the next 10 years will look like if they keep allowing millions of non-citizens into major cities.
We're replaced. That's number one. They're trying to replace the electorate in general, whether it's through the census, because they'll put these millions rather, in the right state. So when they redo the census in a year or two, they'll have new House districts. So the Dems will control more House districts. And they'll eventually, as you just said, Tim, make them allowed to vote, because they're already starting to do it in certain cities. In Chicago, and I think was it Boston and others, they're working on allowing illegals to vote in local races already. Now it's illegal for them to vote in federal, but that's just a matter of time. That's coming in the next couple of years if we don't stop this. Or before, if we don't stop this bloodbath.
We are going to have in most major cities what is effectively enclaves of non-American communities.
Yeah.
I saw this happen in Sweden when I went to Rinkeby and was threatened and forced to flee, and the police escorted us out, and the police lied about it. When Sweden allowed in the Somali migrants in the 90s, they just put them in effectively like enclaves. They said, okay, you all just go here. So all of these people from Somalia come in, I believe it was Somalia, and they, it might have been Sudan, but I think it's Somalia. They form an enclave, a community. They have kids. Those kids grow up in their community where they're not Swedish. They don't speak Swedish. Right. They're not part of the community. And Swedish people are extremely racist. And I think, in my experience, having talked to a bunch of locals and to some of the migrants, Sweden is probably one of the most racist countries I've been to. Although I think it's fair to say that like China, Japan,
Iceland is every station there.
They're all very ethno-nationalist.
Yeah, Icelandic people like Sweden, Icelandic people. That's it.
In Sweden, if you don't speak Swedish properly, they discriminate against you. They scoff at you. They have attitudes against you. And I'm sure not all Swedish people, of course, but I talked to too many people who are immigrants from various parts of the world who said the same thing, that they're very non-friendly, but they want to claim they are liberal and very warm and welcoming, so they form enclaves for themselves while they tout how prestigious they are. It's the epitome of like liberal elitism.
Yes.
But in Rinkeby, you end up with these kids growing up in a society where they are Swedish. They have no home country to go back to, but they barely speak the language. They don't view the cops as part of their communities. And so they view themselves as an isolated community, to the point where there was one incident in a town called Södertälje where these aren't even refugees or migrants. These are the children of migrants. So they're born in Sweden, driving in a car, and I think it was at a bank or something. This is a story that we interviewed the mayor. I believe we interviewed the mayor. Fully automatic rifle out of the sunroof and just unloading on, I think it was a bank or something. That's what happens when you have people who think, I am not a part of your country.
Right. Look what's happening in London. They've got enclaves of Muslims that have come from different Middle Eastern countries, and they've had wars against the cops, attacks on locals, and you're seeing these enclaves pop up now outside of Detroit, outside of Minneapolis. It's already happening in America, where you've got lots of folks from the Sudan, Somalia, different Middle Eastern countries as well, that have set up shop, but they're staying tight-knit, and they're not becoming part of America. They're not learning our heritage, not becoming Americans. I saw a person post something right before I walked in today. I forget who it was. The actor, Danny Trejo, who is probably a little more liberal than he acts sometimes, but he at least posted something today saying, look, You can be coming in from Mexico, where his family's from, or wherever. But by God, at least once you're here, become American. Raise that flag and fly it proudly. You can have your heritage, and you can be proud you're from Brazil or Guatemala or El Salvador. But if you're coming here, do it, number one, legally, and two, learn our freaking language, and three, embrace your heritage while you learn ours.
And this is
become a Mexican American.
And this is what Joe Biden's trying to do. What the bill they're trying to get passed, claiming it's for security, would legalize all of the criminal activity that's happening on the border. So basically then, as all of these non-citizens flood the country, they can say, this is our legal immigration process. What do you mean?
There's a man on trial in Norway right now. I think his name's Danir Matapor, and he and his family immigrated from Iran, and when he was 12, they fled as refugees. They were seeking asylum in Norway. He's 44 now, so that means the majority of his life he's lived in Norway. But he's a avowed member of the Islamic State. He was basically radicalized because we were talking about this. This is something that I remember learning at my at college, which, as we know, tends to lean very left. Which is that people who are from a very strict culture, they feel very othered in the country that they flee to seeking asylum or whatever, will often become radicalized extremists. They'll seek out the sort of far right parts or the more radical parts of the culture that they came from. So this man is on trial because he opened fired at at a gay bar in a neighborhood the week of it was in Pride Month 2022. And I remember writing the story. I don't remember if Chris can remember when I turned this one in, but he had gone on trial, and the judge, it was Ramadan had just started, and he asked the judge, well, how can we be in trial? It's Ramadan. And the judge was like, I've reviewed all of the things that I can review, and I don't see a conflict. And he was like, but you guys don't have court on Easter. And it's like, yes, because they are not an Islamic country. They have different values. And so it would make sense that they would be observing different
of today
holidays
versus a few years ago and normalcy. We were telling people you need to become an American. Now we're like, no. Bring your ideals and your heritage, and you can live that way in America. But problem is, folks from those third world countries don't operate like us. A lot of them don't value life like we do. And no, I'm not talking about the abortion issue, just a human life. They don't value the things Americans value. And this regime, I don't call them administration, the Biden regime and this radical liberal agenda is allowing them to come in illegally and then live their way instead of adapting and becoming American.
Let's jump to that. Let's jump to the story from CNN.
Yeah, what you got?
Supreme Court blocks Texas from enforcing controversial immigration law for now. It is an indefinite block. The Supreme Court basically just said, you cannot enforce immigration law. Have a nice day. That's it. There's no date. We don't know what's going on. And it is, in all likelihood, Texas will defy this and just keep doing exactly what they're doing, which opens up a whole other can of worms for what happens to this country when people realize the Supreme Court has no enforcement authority. How does the Supreme Court enforce anything? I remember when Texas v. Pennsylvania happened, and I was talking to some lawyer friends as to why the Supreme Court would not take up this massively important case over the constitutionality of the elections held by various states. And they said the Supreme Court historically doesn't try to rule too heavily on very, very contentious issues because they realize they have no enforcement capabilities. And if they try to pass a ruling on something very, very heated that people are willing to defy, and people realize the Supreme Court has no enforcement capabilities, then the Supreme Court becomes vestigial.
Right, null and void. And then people will go, what do we have it for? Great point.
Well, right now, the Supreme Court, if they come out and they say you can't do this, and Texas says we can do whatever we want.
I haven't seen Texas pull down the barbed wire or relieve control of that park they took over, right, near Del Rio a month or two ago. So I would say they're probably still defying it by all accounts. I haven't seen them change any course.
This is really appealing.
And good for Abbott. Now, I will give him harsh criticism because I don't know what the hell took him so long. I mean, the invasion's been happening for 3 years and a month, and you just started locking it down in the last 6 months. So I don't know what took them so long. And then all that happened is the cartels and the NGOs that are working with all of these illegals just switched. Okay, Texas is locked off. We'll go to New Mexico. It's liberal. That governor's not going to stop it. She's a nut job. We'll go to Arizona. Same with Katie. Or we'll go to Cali because look at Newsom. And so that's where all the immigration now, the criminal invasion has taken place. They just moved to blue states where we're just allowing it. I live in San Diego. And you should see in the last 3 to 4 months since Abbott shut Texas down, the flooding in San Diego. We didn't see it for the last 2 years, but in the last few months, it's insane. Our airport, I just flew here to see you guys. airport lined with illegals covered in little silver blankets we're giving them, with a little manila envelope with God knows what in we're giving them, right? Money, cell phones, whatever. And guess what? These weren't women and children. These were all men. Every single one of them I saw were men. And they didn't look like they were downtrodden and came here. Like, some of them had on some nice clothes, nice shoes. What I'm like, you're fleeing some horrible country, right? You're an asylum seeker. No, the number of asylum seekers out of this 10 million that have come in is probably less than 10%. These people are not asylum seekers.
Well, all they have to do is say that they have to just claim that they're seeking asylum.
Well,
Chris, you were in California for a long time. Is that what? Did you see similar things during the time that you were there?
Not when I was there, thankfully. But I mean, a good friend of mine is still a border reporter in Southern California, and he's been covering this issue really closely. And he's down at the border every other week. And yeah, it's really bad. And it has seemed to be like a rerouting pattern.
It is,
since Texas has sort of clamped down. And seeing this is like, I really hope I was going to say it's really appealing to the anarchist in me when Texas kind of defies this sort of stuff. And I imagine that Abbott's going to have the same response to this. I mean, they're just going to shrug and say, oh, well, there's 9 lawyers in D.C. running their mouth. So what?
Yeah,
that's essentially all it is.
Well, when you look at the process that Biden regime set up, they created an app, right? It takes them less than 35 or 45 minutes to fill out the app. And then they can walk to our border, turn themselves in. They get less than a 15-minute conversation with a Border Patrol agent, and they're released into this country. Now think about that. If you're coming from where we know, because we've heard it directly from their mouths, where they've emptied Venezuela, Nicaragua, all these third world countries have let out jails, insane asylums, whatever, those folks know if I just fill out that app, and I hop on the train and go up to Tijuana and walk across in California and say I'm an asylum seeker and show them I filled out the app, they let me in the country. They're seeing this. And the NGOs are working hand in hand with them. You've seen the reporting O'Keefe's done. Laura Loomer was down in the Darien Gap in Panama. The NGOs are down in those other countries, working with those governments, working with our government, and telling them to come in. And then finally, I reported this 3 years ago on my show, and people said I was a lying asshole. And I'm like, I've got pictures from Teterboro, Jersey, different airports, showing the unmarked white planes and buses, bringing them, flying them in. And now we learned, a month ago? Oh yeah, they've flown in at least 325,000, which means they've probably flown in 1 million. So we're flying them in. They're not even doing the walk anymore or the train ride. The Biden regime's literally bringing in illegals, and you're all paying for it. Like, that is insane to me. This is not America anymore. If I'm not trying to say this to gaslight people or get more clicks and likes or follows, because I don't give a shit. If we don't right this ship come November, we have 8 months to right this ship, or America as we know it and as I have known it and I served it is gone. And I think, Tim, you would agree, right?
Absolutely.
It's gone. This is not trying to scare people. Vote for Trump because I like the man. I don't agree with everything the man says or he's done. I'm not in a cult.
While Joe Biden is out campaigning, while Kamala Harris is out campaigning, Democrats are using lawfare to tie Trump up in court.
Yes.
And maybe Trump wins. Everyone thinks they're not going to let him win. He's going to get convicted. Who knows? At the very least, the process is the punishment. Trump is unable to campaign as often as he should be because they have him in court constantly, filing. I was listening to AP News, and they mentioned Joe Biden brought in a record haul of $53 million. And while that surpasses, while Donald Trump had a lot more money on hand, unfortunately, he's had to use it for his legal fees.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. That's what they're doing.
This is unprecedented. If this is allowed to stand, if the Democrats end up winning again, then we are basically going to operate like North Korea.
I agree. I mean, look, you can't be a free, independent media agency today and speak truth unless you're on podcasts, different social media platforms. But as far as being a network and try to speak truth like we've been doing at OAN, they don't allow you to do it. Besides the 2 lawsuits we're facing from Dominion and Smartmatic, let's not forget that they used that NewsGuard ESG rating. You guys talked about that on the show before, the little pyramid, right? They've got OAN and other networks up there with like Nazis at the top of the pyramid. They've scared away a huge portion of our advertisers who say, well, we can't do business with you. You guys are the purveyors of misinformation, according to NewsGuard, which, oh, by the way, the government pays NewsGuard. You all know that, right? And so we're just like Trump. They're trying to bleed us dry until we go off the air. They're trying to bleed Trump dry so he will stop running. And something I wish more people would talk about that know the man, and I don't know, Chris, Hannah, Tim, if you ever met him, but in the last 3 years, I've done 6 interviews. I've spent time with him at Bedminster, at Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower, when the cameras were off, when the microphones were not on. And I can tell you somebody that knows him, that frequently will text or call and talk to the man, Donald J. Trump, not the president, not the figure, not the one they demonize every damn day, the guy, okay? The guy that eats a Big Mac and drinks Diet Coke and says the F word. And he loves his country. He's trying to do what's right. And his family is getting screwed for it. His business, as you just said, Tim, he can't afford to pay that ridiculous bond. And come on, what he did, the banks showed up and testified and said, he paid us back with interest. We want to keep doing business with Trump. Why are we claiming that he did something illegal? Every real estate developer out there does exactly what he did. You want to show your property in the best light, get the highest value.
In revolt. They're telling Kathy Hochul they're going to pull out, and she's like, no, everything's fine. Just don't worry.
Better. See, that's what we got to get people with more balls.
Kevin O'Leary went on several shows for like 2 weeks talking about how he's pulled out his investments from New York, and they're going to start looking to other states, including West Virginia. New York is not a safe place to operate. If you have a business, and your business in any way is national, or I'll put it this way. If you don't need to operate at your headquarters in New York, you absolutely should not operate your headquarters in New York, because do you want to buy a lottery ticket where they can come and just seize all your assets? So I'll put it this way. The likelihood that they get you, literally you listening right now, it's slim. Why? Well, because there's a ton of Trump supporters in New York, but they're coming for Trump, and they're going to come for people who are defending Trump. It's going to be subtle too. I don't think they'll go after a regular old Trump supporter and say something like, "Oh, you committed fraud, we're taking your property." I think they're going to do something like, "Oh, we viewed your taxes and you actually owe a little bit more. You know what? You owe a little bit more than that." They're going to nickel and dime you. They're going to attack you.
Right.
Why take the chance?
If red
you
tape.
Don't need to be in New York, you shouldn't be.
Well, you see, Kevin O'Leary was approaching this from very apolitical lens. I mean, what he said was, this is not about Trump. This is a New York problem now, because this sets precedent. I thought that was a really shrewd observation.
Yeah, and more people have stepped up. I just wish more would. But then just speaking out isn't enough. I mean, where do you hit these people so they will pay attention? Mm-hmm. Green doesn't know left or right, blue or red. Money. Right. You got to hit them in the pocketbook. That's the only way you're going to make these people change. And so unless you get the Kevin O'Learys and the other billionaires that do business in New York to get the hell out of there, it's not going to send that direct message to Hochul and the rest of them.
But I don't think you need to send a message. The message has been sent by Hochul, by Letitia James.
Yeah, good point.
When Kevin O'Leary goes on TV and says, "We are getting out of here," he's just the public-facing guy. I guarantee as soon as that ruling came down, those banks that said we like Trump and want to work with him immediately went to their lawyers and their insurance companies and said, "What do we have to do now?" And they probably started setting up a whole bunch of contingencies and trusts. They're thinking now, okay, what if they come for us next? And so they're setting up those emergency plans. I'm also willing to bet, I think it's absolutely obvious, Kevin O'Leary is not the only real estate developer to say, "We're leaving New York." I'm willing to bet tons of developers silently just said, let's start shifting our focus somewhere else. And it's subtle and it's simple. You've got a regional or national development firm, and they say, "How many projects were we looking at for New York? 3 or 4? Is there somewhere else we could allocate our resources and just, it's a high risk state?" And they say, "Yeah, Pennsylvania's got some opportunity. Okay, let's shift there. We'll keep New York on the back burner, but we'll see. The risk is too high right now." How many people want to cut a deal with any one of these lenders in New York when the government could just come and seize everything you own?
Yeah, I mean, once again, love him, hate him, or you're indifferent. When he says they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, that's a perfect case in point. New York and that bogus trial.
Let's jump to this next story from The Hill. Trump lawyers securing full $454 million bond, practical impossibility in New York fraud case, saying defendants' ongoing diligent efforts have proven that a bond in the judgment's full amount is a practical impossibility. The lawyers wrote. They basically went to as many underwriters as possible, and they all said, "You're nuts. We're not giving you $500 million in bond," especially considering no one believes they're going to give Trump a fair trial. But you know what this means? The next move, which they've already announced they intend to do, is to seize Trump's assets.
Yeah, heard that.
Now, look, okay, this is just the next grain of sand in the heap. But I predicted my hypothesis, my prediction was they claim Mar-a-Lago's worth $20 million. Why? Not because of Mar-a-Lago, but because now they will use that as reference to say Trump on Fifth Avenue. They'll say Trump claims it's worth $200 million. In fact, it's worth 10. Then they'll say Trump owes us $454 million. So we will seize his $10 million property and deduct it from his bill. He now owes $444 million. This way, they can seize all of his assets, at the same time claim he still owes $500 million. Letitia James already said they will make moves to seize his assets if he doesn't pay. Trump has now said he can't pay. So logically, they're going to follow through and they're going to seize his assets and then probably start selling off piece by piece.
Well, and this is the one that I think out of all the other cases, they're all falling apart. So this is the only one. They couldn't take him down on the docks so far on Jan 6, on the Georgia case, because Fani Willis, of course, diddling her friend, Mr. Wade. So you have all those cases falling by the wayside now. Matter of fact, the judge just kicked the, the docks case down the can there's no date on the calendar whatsoever. So they've seen all of these cases are falling apart. What's the only way we can take him out now? If we can't get him on one of the criminal cases, we'll get him on this and take everything he owns, all of his cash. We'll shut him down that way because we can't get him on the other bullshit cases because they're all falling apart except this one because they knew they'd get him on this one. There was no trial.
I don't know if they're all falling
judge.
apart. I mean, which ones do you mean?
I mean, well, Jack Smith's isn't doing too well, and the Georgia one's not doing too well.
With Jack Smith, that got delayed a little bit, or what was the latest?
Yeah, they were trying to get that one to start the day before Super Tuesday, remember? Yeah. And then the judge, because they're waiting on the immunity part from the Supreme Court, she just kicked the can. Chutkan is that judge. And so Chutkan pulled it off the docket totally. There's no date.
Wow.
And then the other one, that's the Docs case, the Jan 6 insurrection one, they're saying could come after the election even.
You got Georgia still, though.
Georgia, right. But let's see what that corrupt judge did. All right. Let's talk about that judge, McAfee, who's up for re-election this year, right? Yep. Who worked for Fani Willis, who's donated to her campaign, who's a registered Democrat. Everyone sees what happened there. I mean, he gave the ultimatum. He said, you did wrong, Fani, but instead of punishing you for doing wrong, I'm going to make you force out your boyfriend. He has to resign or you have to fire him. Of course, that day he resigned. But then, Your Honor, you just admitted that she did wrong. She should have been removed and I think disbarred, but they didn't. That shows prejudice. I think whatever happens there, he will appeal. That's not going to affect his reelection bid whatsoever. Even if he's found guilty of that, it doesn't stop him from running for president and you voting for him. So none of these cases stop him from running nor taking the office. But if you take his homes and you take all of his money, well, then it makes it very difficult to continue to run. So while the other cases, the ones about January 6th, the docs, whatever, are falling by the wayside, this is the one. Good old Letitia. We all remember her campaign was, I'm going to get Trump. I'm going to get that mother effer. I mean, these people said these things when they ran for office. And you see what's happening down in Georgia, in New York with crime, these DAs and prosecutors who don't want to put anybody in jail, all in the guise of social justice and DEI and yada, 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 letting everybody out back on the streets. But they're making it their missions to go after Trump because it raises money, right? You just talked about how much Joe just raised.
But it's not just that, it's kneecapping Trump. They're trying to stop him from being able to.
Because the other three cases won't, so this will kneecap him.
Right. Yeah. I think it stops him from going on the offensive, right? They need him to be in a defensive position for as long as possible, tying up as much time, energy, resources, and personnel, because otherwise it's a really, really uphill battle for the Biden campaign, and they can't handle that. And
can we just talk about the 18 million? You guys have been to Mar-a-Lago before? Nope. My God. I was just there last week for an event for Scott Lebedo. If you don't know Scotty, look him up. Great guy from New York, artist, conservative activist. We went and watched a documentary film he's got dropping in May. And that property, you drive up and down that strip of Palm Beach and you see those other homes that are listed for $25 up to $85 million. And then you look at Mar-a-Lago and you go, that's 18. I think even that case, when that came out, that woke up a few million Americans to go, okay, that judge is corrupt as hell. Look at this freaking property. That's worth 18 million.
Mar-a-Lago means ocean to the sea.
He's got two waterfronts.
The lake, sorry.
He's got the channel and the ocean front. Most of the properties only have one or the other. They also don't have the acreage he has, nor the square footage. Yep. And the cheapest one next door to his is about 25, and they shoot up to 65 to 80, I think.
Literally no argument. And you even had these grifter liberals on Twitter trying to justify the claim it was $18 million. And it's just like, look at Zillow right now. It's $45 million for the tiny 1 acre plot next door. You're telling me from the ocean to the lake, both sides of the water is worth the same price? That's a lie.
Yeah.
Mar-a-Lago was reportedly the most valuable property in the country when it was first sold after being built in like, I think it was like the 50s or something. And in terms
it's got like 60, I forget the acreage. I might get this wrong.
It's like 20,
and the square footage. It's 20 some acres, 18.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's 63 or 69,000 square foot because of all the other buildings. It's huge. Not that these mansions aren't, that they're asking 25 to 84, but the square footage is massive. You have the main, they call it the living room because the gal that owned it as a home, that was her living room. So you have the main entry and foyer living room, and then there's 2 massive ballrooms. There's other casitas. There's bungalows you can stay in. There's the worker staff quarters. There's the private residence. I mean, this property is massive. There you go, Tim. Let's show everybody, just to remind the lies that were told by this corrupt ass judge, no jury. Already, I mean, this judge predetermined that Trump was guilty. We all remember that, right? Before the trial even started. He said, he's guilty. So we knew which way this was going to go. There you go. So what's stuff going for there on that little strip of island? 25 to $80 million?
I believe this is where there's Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, look. So no home gets both oceanfront and channel front.
$45 million.
$45 million. You know what I think? I think what I should do is I should file a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit against this guy. And I should, this actually would be really funny if someone did this in Florida. File a lawsuit against the person selling the property next to Mar-a-Lago for $45 million under the grounds that it's fraudulent. Mm-hmm. They're falsely inflating the value of their property. Based on the estimates from the New York government, the value of Mar-a-Lago being at $18 million, this should go for $300,000.
Well, you should sue the $15 million guy too then, because there's no way if Mar-a-Lago's 18, that one's 15.
When the judge says, you're insane, have a nice day, you then have legal precedent in the inverse saying, it is worth $45 million and you can screw off.
I was off by 1,000. I said 63. It's 62.5 on the square footage, and it's almost 18 acres. Yeah. 18 acres and 2 waterfront properties. Hello, because he's got those homes on the other side of the street right there, and there's rooms and different things in that pool that are oceanfront that he owns, and then you have the backyard, if you will, that connect to the channel. There's no property on that strip of land that has both waterfronts, nor there's nothing there that has almost 18 acres. But it's worth $18 million.
$45 million for this 13,000 square foot property. How many acres is it? Should tell us
Should
down
be
here.
There somewhere. Show more. There you go.
0.43.
Wow. It's not even an acre.
0.43.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Why would you spend that much money on that?
But when that ruling came down,
not
how
even
many people did we see on X, the liberal crazies, praising that judge, praising Letitia, saying Trump's a crook, and believing that his dump of a property is only worth 18? I mean, that's how poisoned these people's minds are. 57. I thought you had a 71. I think they're up to 80.
I just wanted to know from the people of Florida, do you want the state of New York to seize control of Mar-a-Lago? Do you want them to possess these properties, right? I mean, if they're going over everything Trump has, every state that he has property in should really look at themselves and say, this is the consequence that they will, he doesn't just own nothing. He owns valuable properties in multiple places. And this is what New York is going after. Do you want New York to have that kind of influence in your state? Right. And the answer is probably no.
No.
So what are they
the appellate
doing?
Process, though? Why are they trying to, again, Tim, you alluded to it already, they want to shut him down. But this should, liberals as well, any American who believes in our judicial system, which why would you believe in it these days? Here's another case in point. He's appealing. How can you seize property before the adjudication of the entire process, which is the appeals process? Let the man go to the appeals court. Because what if he wins? Then you took his money and his property already?
They're playing.
How the hell is that possible?
They're obviously cheating.
Yeah.
It's obviously not real. Trump can't do anything because his buildings are in New York. So the issue is they accused Trump of fraud. The judge issued a summary judgment, banging the gavel, saying Trump committed fraud, period. I don't need a trial. Trump gets no trial. They then said, now we'll have a trial about whether or not Trump falsified records. After that, it doesn't matter what any of his lenders say. When they testify in court, he didn't commit fraud. He did everything right. We want to work with him again. They said, that doesn't matter. This court's already determined that he has. Yeah. Your statements are meaningless. So in the real world, if this was over a car or something, someone was suing you, you could simply say, you can't have the car. Like you're gonna fight me in court all day and night, and you're not taking it. The problem is Trump's buildings are in New York, not all of them, but the buildings they're attacking him over. What's Trump going to do? They will send police in.
True.
And these boys in blue with smiles on their faces will seize Trump's property, and they'll be very happy to do it. State troopers will come in, whatever it takes. Probably the state troopers will come in, and they will take over Trump properties. And you're going to get a ton of these conservatives going back to blue baby the whole time. And then one excuse I heard was, don't compare big city cops to small town police. And it's just like, you mean like the small town police in Minnesota who hunted down the cafe owner and arrested her because she opened her cafe during COVID? Like, how about the small town cops who went out of their town to in New Jersey to Attila's gym and shut Attila's gym down and even tried to arrest people? Don't tell me you can't compare New York to small town cops. I guarantee you, dude. You know what I see in Venezuela and what we will see here, and you see everywhere because humans are humans. Men will sell their souls to the devil to feed their kids, unquestionably. And you might think that's a good thing, and maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. My point is not to cast judgment, to tell you this. When it comes down to this country is in free fall, there is a shortage of food. The food is expensive. If you side against me, your children will go hungry. If you serve the state and arrest Trump and his supporters, we will give your kids food. Every single one of these people, save only a tiny few, will say, thank you, master.
Yeah.
This is what we see in Venezuela. It's what you see in North Korea. It's what you see in all these countries. And you wonder why it is that you have police officers and military willing to serve dictators and commit genocides. It's because the answer is actually really simple. They go to the soldier and say, you're either with us or against us. Do you want to be in the gas chamber or do you want to be the one pulling the lever? You have two choices. And people always say, where's the lever? It's the, what was it? The Milgram experiment? Was that what it was? Where they, this is such a great experiment. Milgram, right? They put people in a chair with buttons, and a researcher said, press the first button. They do. And then you hear someone get electrocuted, and scream. And then when the person being a subject says, is that person okay? They say, don't worry about it. Just press the next button. And it was increasing the voltage, and the people on the other side were screaming and begging to stop. And the man with the checkboard, the clipboard kept saying, no, that's fine. Just press the next one. They did it. Very few people said no. Yeah. They all said, okay, guy told me to do it. I'll do it. Not my fault.
Oh, it's interesting you bring that up. I was giving a speech at an event like a week or two ago, and I said the exact same thing about cops, teachers, military, the exact same thing you said, Tim. I said, look, fault them to a degree, but at the end of the day, you think about it. If you're out there facing the inflation that we're all facing today, and you're making 50 grand, 40 grand, 70 grand, whatever they make as a cop or a firefighter or a teacher in smaller towns, because I've heard the same thing. They'll say, no, the big city cops are different than the local sheriffs and whatever. I go, but at the end of the day, you think about this. If you've got a mortgage, you got a car payment, you got kids' college tuition, but still kids at home to feed, and somebody comes to you and you're a sergeant, you're in charge of other cops, and your commander tells you you're going to do this, you're going to take a platoon of cops with you, and you're going to go take Trump's property. And you know it's wrong, but you got that mortgage on Staten Island, you got those 3 kids, maybe a kid's in the hospital, who knows what your issue is, but your bubble is what you got to worry about. The majority of men are going to go, I got to feed my family, I got to take care of them. And we can fault them to a degree, but I agree with you. We need more men to stand up and start saying, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not right. And if one stands up, I firmly believe more would stand up with them. But until you get 1 or 2 in every department standing up to these damn bullies, they're going to roll.
I don't know that they would. I think each and every one of these individuals would. I'll put it this way.
Can I throw an age bracket under the bus and say,
sure,
I think if they're 50 and older, more men might stand up. I think there's a lot of younger men that are in some of these professions that are weaker-minded men that I agree with you wouldn't stand up.
I think you take a guy and you take 2 children. One is the man's son and the other is a stranger's kid. And if he's ordered, you've got to kill one of these kids, no question. They say one of them has to die.
Good point.
When they go to this man and they say, everyone's desperate, there's no food. Either your child eats and you are the one who enforces against everyone else, and you will be the one to take the food from them, or we will take the food from you. There's no question what they're going to do. It's a logic puzzle without an answer. I see maybe a tiny fraction of men willing to say, for the sake and the betterment of my country, I would sacrifice my life, my children. You know what irks me the most is the founding fathers were those men.
And they were in their 20s and 30s.
And they sacrificed their families, their treasure, their honor, their standing, and their children. Some of them, a couple of them lost their kids. A couple of them had their kids taken as prisoners of war. And when they signed that Declaration of Independence, they were saying outright to their families, this means that when the regulars come, and they will, you will be the target. Because they can't coerce me, they can't beat me, they can't torture me. But the only way to get to me is through you. And that's exactly what any enemy would do. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating. So I will say there, of course, can be generations and there can be men who are willing to say, I would sacrifice the safety and security, my honor, my blood, my treasure, including my children, for the betterment of my nation. And that's why we revere the founding fathers. But today, we got too many weak men who will, with smiles on their faces, look.
I would agree with you, Tim. We do.
The moment they say, take Trump's building, you're going to get some 28-year-old cop in New York who's like, well, I know it's wrong, but need the job. Yes. And they're going to stand there and they're going to go do it.
See, and I come from a different era. I was born in the 70s. And I guess I still have that image of patriotic, tough men that stand up and do what's right. Because that's the way I was taught. And not by my father, because he was pretty absent, but by other real men around me, my buddies' dads, figures you would see on television and film back then, stories you would hear about founding fathers, about war heroes from World War II or Vietnam. Those were the images ingrained in me coming from the Midwest. And so I always thought and was taught as a man, that's what we're supposed to do. You stand up and do what's right. But I agree with you. From
Jason Dixon super chatted saying, Tim sees himself in the problem with bad cops he's projecting. You have the personal problem. You would do evil. You don't know what it means. You are projecting, sir, because quite literally, I'm the opposite. I'm the person who told the president of a ABC news company I would not do what they wanted me to do, and he could cut my contract and take his millions of dollars and shove it and put it where the sun don't shine. That's me less than a year into my contract at Fusion saying, I don't want to be here and I won't do what you guys are planning, so I will drop this contract and go figure it out on my own. And there are too many people, like in New York, when de Blasio stole tax money and illegally wrote, what did he write? Black Lives Matter in front of the Trump building? Yes. And you had something like 27 cops standing out there with stolen taxpayer dollars to guard political campaigning from a mayor. You had the cops at Attila's gym. You had the sheriff in Minnesota who went and arrested some woman who opened her cafe. You had the cops in New Jersey who went to a woman's shop in North Jersey because she was live streaming on Facebook what her shop had. Despite the fact it was closed, they did not want her selling products. And you think, I'm projecting? Bro, the cops in this country, what happened when you had these Trump supporters with their thin blue line flag? They threw it on the ground and they stomped on it because in Portland and Seattle, the police were letting Antifa run around and rampage and smash things, and they were threatening Patriot Prayer. Is that what it was? Patriot Prayer and Proud Boys. So if you can't recognize that these cops all over the country are quite literally doing this, in New York, when the George Floyd riots were happening, cops stood down. And I laugh and I say, well, that's what you get. But then at the same time, they're going out issuing citations, and and everyone did say state troopers in New York went and blocked a bar that was open for free. A bar, I think it was in Staten Island. They said, okay, fine. We're not operating for business. Everyone, you're free to come into the building and drinks are free. We're not charging any money. So state troopers came and lined up in front of it to block people from coming in. I think the most egregious thing was the shutting down of Attila's gym. I think in New Jersey, when you had that woman, she's live streaming on Facebook like, here are things that I'm selling in my shop. Message me if you want to buy them. The police showed up and said, 2 cops, ma'am, you need to close your store. She goes, my store is closed. And they said, no, you're online trying to sell products. She goes, what? I'm closed for COVID. People can't come in. Doesn't matter. Stop streaming or else. I'm projecting. Spare me, dude.
Well, Tim, I can relate. 1 year into OAN, and I won't mention the network, I was offered a hosting job for more money. And I asked this particular network executive if I would have carte blanche to say whatever I want on my opinionated political talk show, like I do at OAN, where the ownership doesn't tell me jack shit. And this person chuckled. And I said, that's all I need to know. And we didn't negotiate any further. So I turned down a job for a lot more money, and it would have been in New York City, which I won't live in, because of pure principle of saying, I want to be able to speak truth to power. And if it means I got to sell my soul out to make more money, then F you, I'm not doing it. And I stayed put, and I've been there now for 3.5 years. So now you said a 28-year-old cop will go do that. And see, this is where I won't throw all law enforcement under the bus, because if you look at during COVID lockdowns, there's a sheriff in Riverside, California, liberal as hell, California, named Chad Bianco, who's a personal friend of mine. He's about 52, 53. So he's my age. When Newsom told him, go start roughhousing people that aren't making people show their stupid vaccine pass and shut businesses down, he literally told the governor, F off. And they never sent state troopers into Riverside County.
And that's
they never
the
did jack squat. Exactly. That's why I said there are men willing to do it. There are men willing to do it, but they're mostly older ones.
And the reason why, the reason why I think the story you just told is probably 1 in a million lottery ticket, is because CBP agents at the border knowingly send children to be sex trafficked, and they don't care. So if you think it's projection, you are not paying attention to what's going on in this country right now, because it has now been reported in numerous instances, armed cartel members are raping children, bringing them across the border with numbers on their arms to be sent into child sex trafficking rings.
Right.
CBP knows, and there are agents at the border smiling as they do it. You think that when it comes time to walk into Trump's building and put a padlock on it, they wouldn't do it? My friends, they are literally selling children into sex trafficking. One of the most vile and I believe probably the most evil thing a human being can do.
Yes.
And Customs and Border Protection are doing it right now on our southern border.
120,000 kids missing. The Obama regime, or pardon me, Obama. Well, it's what it is. It's Obama 2.0. The Biden regime admitted the other month, right? 85,000 kids they lost. My sources with CBP tell me it's more like 125,000 kids they lost. And these guys that work the border have told me, yeah, you're exactly right, Tim. They come in, and I've been down to the border, by the way, covering it. They call the phone number in Chicago. Somebody says, yep, I'm the uncle. And they literally let the kid go to Chicago. There's no background check. They're not finding out if that person in Chicago is the uncle. They go, okay, well, that's the phone number and you picked up. So this kid's coming to you.
And as Dr. Phil stated on The View, and the reason I cite Dr.
I love
Phil
when he shut those ladies down.
And The View, it's because this is as mainstream, bland, liberal elite as you can get. And he said, the head of the CBP union said, it is absolute that we are sending children into child sex trafficking.
Yes, Brandon Judd said that. You're right. Yeah, they are. We're paying for it. Our taxes are paying for hundreds of thousands of kids to be trafficked right now.
Why would an American knowingly send a child who had likely already been raped by the cartels into a sex trafficking ring in this country? Like I said, when it comes down to it, in fact, it may not even be about kids. He's just like, I got a job and I'm not going to be the one on the short end of the, I'm not taking the short stick on this one.
No, that is the excuse. I hear, hey, I got bills, I got kids, I got this, I got a mortgage, I got college tuition for my kids, I got to pay it. And if I walk off this job and say I'm not going to do it anymore for Border Patrol, they're going to fire my ass.
I genuinely believe that for a lot of these cops and these CBP guys, if a child was walking down the street and his boss said, shoot that kid or you're fired, he'd do it.
I won't go that extreme.
Child sex trafficking is worse.
It is.
And they know they're doing it.
Listen, because those kids get raped daily. That's why the cartels said, let's do human trafficking once Joe opened the border instead of the drugs even more, because you make more money off a human than a drug. You only get to sell that fentanyl pill once, right? But you get to sell that little 10-year-old until they're too old for these sick ass perverts. 18, 17, they probably don't like them much older than that. But from 10 to 17 for 7 years, 7 times a day, 7 days a week. They sell them.
I feel like
so disgusting.
The idea that a CBP agent would not, facing some kind of justification. I don't think it's a bland as, hey, there's a kid, kill him. No, there'd be some kind of justification as to why it's the authority tells him to do it. He does it. I don't see the logic in, they know for a fact they're sending children into sex trafficking rings, which is quite literally one of the worst human atrocities, if not the worst thing that can be done to a human being, to humanity itself as a whole.
Well, because they're innocent victim. They're not an adult.
Well, because it destroys humanity.
Yeah, it ruins them for their whole life if they get to live.
I think child trafficking and child sexual abuse is worse than murder and potentially the worst crime because it destroys humanity from the core, from its root. You create, not only are you committing a crime against an innocent child, but it's destroying the fabric underlayer of humanity itself.
Yeah. Well, you're murdering their innocence too for life.
Destroying children prevents human civilization in its next stage from progressing. You are committing a crime against all of humanity when you commit crimes against children. I think it's plainly obvious in video games, for instance. Did you know that most video games don't let you harm children? Isn't that amazing? I can play GTA. I can play Baldur's Gate 3. In Baldur's Gate 3, you can do some horrible things. It's a fantasy D&D style video game. You can walk up and just bludgeon people. But if you strike a child, they just run away. They can't be harmed. They just run away because society doesn't like these things. Now, how is it, logically speaking, that a CBP agent, knowing that children are being sent into child sex trafficking, would be okay with it, but would have an issue with shooting a child? Now, you can argue perhaps one's more extreme and one's more instant. I accept that argument. But I actually think pending a legitimate justification, they do it. They instantly, you got it. Yes, no problem. Justification means when these kids come, they say, well, maybe the kids, maybe they'll get out of it. You know, maybe they'll find a way to escape. You know, they'll maybe get raped for a few years before they finally can find a better life. That's their justification. So when it comes to being ordered, there's a kid, the kid's probably a drug dealer or he probably committed a crime. Justification. I don't see how a human being, the CBP agents, could do what they're doing, knowing what they're doing, and they know what they're doing. I can't fathom that. I could not fathom that. There was one story I saw where a guy in a CBP truck pulled up as some woman was crossing, and he screamed at her to turn around. She's not welcome, and that guy got in trouble. But tell me, I don't understand how this could be possible.
You look at what the
Biden
regime did to the guys on horses 2 years ago.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Said they were whipping people, and then they weren't. And the media played along with it, and those guys were going to get fired, and they got investigated, and then, it turns out,
Mayorkas publicly condemned them.
They were just hitting the horse to move the horse around, but the angle and the photographer had to come out and tell the press, no, I took those pics. They weren't whipping people.
They were like, please stop talking.
Yeah, no.
That doesn't work with our narrative.
I'll shout out Jason Dixon again. He says the exception isn't the rule. You're absolutely right. The one story we got about a cop saying no is an excellent point. That isn't the rule. The rule is in almost every circumstance we had throughout COVID, the police gleefully locked down churches, locked down stores, arrested salon owners, released prisoners from the jails.
Yep.
And then they locked up salon owners. There was a man in New York who was fighting for his life after he was being robbed, and he stabbed the assailant. They locked him up.
I remember that one.
There was a family that got their building ransacked. Nothing gets done about it. Luke Rudkowski tells the story 10 years ago of a man in the New York subway who went around stabbing people, and the police stood back and said, we're not getting involved with that. You're right. When I hear a story about one good cop, I'm like, the exception isn't the rule. What we see time and time again is that when it comes down to it, the police will absolutely just do whatever they have to do to protect their own asses. My favorite story is Youngstown, Ohio, during Occupy Wall Street. I never actually looked into this story, so I don't know the full details. But the rumor going around, and again, fact check me on this one. This one may have more nuance to it. Police joined the protests with firefighters and union workers during Occupy Wall Street. So the city decided to cut a deal with the cops. The cops then turned around and arrested all the people they marched with. Immediately said, okay, we got what we wanted. The rest of you can go rot in hell. Wow. So I have very little respect.
I hear you. And I think, Tim, too, it's an age thing for me. I was always taught to respect authority, and also serving in the military, I kind of clump a little bit of, and my brother was a firefighter that passed. So first responders, cops, and military, I clumped together. And in my age bracket as well, I had more respect and revere for them because I used to feel up until the last several years where we've seen this draconian tyrant style militant police force enforce these bullshit orders from these radical leaders like during COVID. So I agree with you to a degree. I just can't throw them all under the bus. It's like saying all teachers are radical liberal assholes, which we know a lot of them are, and professors, but not all. And that's maybe, I don't know, I used to
Sure, but
I agree with you to a degree.
We're talking about in generalities.
Yeah,
like
we need more men to step up.
obviously there are good officers, and unfortunately over the past several years, many of them have quit.
There you go. Good point. A lot of the older guys in the military, in police, in fire. Look what they're doing to the firefighters who booed Letitia James.
They're hunting them down.
Yeah, the female fire commissioner or whatever is hunting them down. You saw the video from the St. Patrick's Day. Right. You can't even voice your grievances. It's like the Mr. Nakui, the father that lost his kid at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan. He gets thrown out of the hall of the State of the Union the other night, and now they're fining him. I offered to pay half with
what's the
Congressman Mast if he'll want to pitch in for that, by the way.
What's the total fine?
I don't know. They said it's like $500 a day or some shit. I don't know how much they're fining him. But I said if Brian Mast wants to jump in. $500 a day? Yeah, because they were going to hold him, but then they didn't hold him, but they hit him at least for one fine. So he's probably only fined $500, but he'll probably have to get a lawyer because it's the federal government. So I don't know what it's going to cost him, but I was like, look, I don't make a lot of money, but if Congressman Mast wants to pitch in, it was his guest, I'll help out Mr. Nakui, because that's some bullshit that you can't address your grievances with your elected leaders. They're supposed to be our public servants. So back to the whole cop thing and firefighters, you see yesterday in the St. Patty's Day parade, tons of New Yorkers cheering on the fire department as they walked by in the parade because they had stood up to Letitia James. And they were all screaming Trump. Lots of the firefighters were saying Trump, Trump, Trump. I grew up in an era where we used to be able to do that and we weren't persecuted. And so I see your point now, Tim, because over the last decade or two, things have changed where when you try to express your grievances or push back on your elected leaders, they use the police force as a Gestapo to come in and shut you down.
On January 20th,
and cops go with it too much.
On January 20th, 2017, 1,000 or so far leftists rampaged through DC, smashing and destroying everything. On May 29th, 2020, thousands of leftists went to DC, firebombed the White House, smashed and destroyed things. No commissions, no hunting down of extremists.
Great point.
January 6th, you got about 1,000 Trump supporters at the Capitol building, half of which were on one side of the building, in which maybe about 100 or so were violently rioting. Well, maybe more than that. And the other side was a bunch of people bumbling about with the doors being open for them, confused as to what was going on.
Yep.
And they've been hunted down for years by Capitol police officers, might I add, who not only were involved in the killing of Ashley Babbitt, but other officers who protected this man, and there was no accountability for it. And it is shocking to me there are still people who are like, back the blue. I had a clip from the Culture War podcast, Tenet Media put it up, where I was telling the story out of New York. Proud Boys got into a fight with Antifa. Antifa was harassing people and attacking people outside of a Republican club. Gavin McInnes was speaking. So at some point, Antifa throws a bottle at the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys then run and get into a fight with Antifa. This mentality that cops are good guys and you got to back the blue is, it's a cold splash in the face for so many conservatives who never realized what was going on. Because now that the far left is being protected, when those Proud Boys got into a fight, the police showed up, and Antifa, having legal resources, having legal advice and legal organization, they've been told by their allies at, say, the National Lawyers Guild or the ACLU, never cooperate with police and run. So when the police showed up, the Proud Boys said, "Officer, I will tell you everything." And Antifa said, "F you," and ran off. So the police then said, "Okay, they're gone." The Proud Boys said, "Well, here's all our information." The police said, "Okay, now you're all under arrest and going to prison for 4 years." And the Proud Boys were shocked. Why would the police officers arrest them? They were defending themselves. They were the ones being attacked. And the cops, with smiles on their faces, said, "Screw you, enjoy prison." Well, there you go. When it comes down to it, these people will take their job over you any day. This is the reason, partly, I think mostly, why unchecked mass migration is so dangerous. I remember I was driving down First Avenue just on the south side of Chicago into the suburbs, if you know where First Avenue is. It's a little bit, I believe, west of Harlem. And I was heading into work. And it was about 3 a.m, because I worked at O'Hare Airport. My shift started at 5:30, when I look into my mirror, and what do I see? Lights within inches of my car. And I'm thinking, like, is this guy trying to rear end me? Probably a guy trying to speed past me, and I'm in the left lane. So I put on my right signal, increase my speed by a couple miles per hour to create some room, and then merge over to the left. Car follows. Lights flicker on. It was a cop. Pulls me over. Walks in my car laughing, saying, "If a cop's behind you, don't start speeding." And I was like, "I thought you were trying to pass me and you were going to hit me." And he goes, "So you admit it?" And he threw me a ticket. He said, "Sign it." And I was just like, what? I was 18. And I was like, this is insane. I got another ticket when I was driving on Lakeshore Drive. It's a 45 mile an hour speed limit, and I was slowing down. So I was going about 35 as I was exiting on Belmont Avenue when a cop car follows me to the exit, pulls me over, and says, "You were going 65 in a 45. I said, "I was exiting. I'm going 35. And he goes, "Tell it to a judge, sign the ticket." And I thought to myself at that point, because these happened within 6 months of each other, that's how my license ended up getting suspended. You get 2 tickets under the age of 21, they suspend your license. I thought if I lived in a small town of, say, like a couple hundred people, and I got pulled over by one of the few sheriff's deputies or sheriffs, they'd pull me over and they'd go, "Ain't you Pools, son?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And he goes, "You're speeding." And I'd be like, "Sorry, officer." And he'd be like, "Not going to tell your dad when I see him at the bar that you were speeding. So don't do it again." And I'll be like, I won't. Back when people lived in small towns and lived near each other, there was an issue for the cop. There was an issue for the kid. There was an issue for the person who lived in the community who broke the law. You had to answer to the community.
Yeah.
When we bring in 10 million non-citizens, what happened when that Venezuelan criminal alien opened fire and shot someone in Times Square? Other Venezuelans took to social media and said, "Screw America, raise money, defend him. We want him to win." Because this guy's community was Venezuela, not America.
Great point.
This is the
I
problem.
grew up in that America, by the way, Tim. In my hometown in Northwest Ohio, that's exactly what happened when I got pulled over by the cops. I didn't get a ticket. Again, different era. This was the 80s, right? Because I'm born in the 70s. So same thing, though. I would get pulled over by the local cops, and it would be like, "Aren't you a ball kid?" Because there was 5 of us. Yep. "Damn it, I know your dad. He was a hellraiser. Don't you become one." "Okay, sorry, officer. You're going to slow it down?" "Yep." And then I won't tell your dad. And then I respected him because they gave me that break.
But the next time you do it, he's like, "No, I'm telling your dad." And you're like, "Oh, crap."
Yeah,
you
it
get
wasn't
home,
a ticket.
And
It
your
was
dad's like, "Why did John just call me and say you're speeding again?"
Yeah, and then got your ass beat because back then, sorry for folks that think that's violent for kids, then you got your ass beat and you didn't do it again. I know I'm supposed to say that because that's physical abuse against kids. Don't hit your kids. Don't hit your kids.
This is what it all comes down to. When the time comes, that cop, he's just going to say, "Look, man, I don't know you. I don't care about you. You're not a part of my life. I've got friends and family that I'm protecting. You don't matter."
See, in the contrast, though, like the other week out in LA, when the drunk teenage 13 or 14-year-old girl crashed a car, had 2 girlfriends in, didn't even care to tell the police that there was people in the car, you had cops run in, not knowing those 2 girls, right, and drag them from a burning car, almost dying themselves. So when I see cops doing heroic acts like that, that's where I'm not giving them a hall pass for the acts you just discussed, but that's where I say there are still good men and women out there wearing the badge, trying to help and defend. But yes, they're put in this predicament 9 out of 10 times where it's, "I've got bills, I've got this. If I don't do what my commander says, I'm fired. I'm off the job. I can't feed my..."
I agree.
So
And I think,
again, I came up with a different era than you guys. And
but
I have a different view of cops.
I agree with you. And I also think the important context is, because I've talked to cops about this, and they say, "Look, man, I don't know." Okay. And I can't know. So if you are on scene somewhere and something happens and my superior officer says, "I need to go do this," for all I know, you just stabbed somebody. For all I know, you just attacked an old lady. For all I know, you're the criminal and I'm just going to do it. And guess what? Every criminal says when you try and stop them, "I didn't do it."
Right.
So all I'm going to do is what I'm told. And I'm like, yeah. I think the issue for the most part is, outside of that, I can recognize the practical difficulties of law enforcement when you're dealing with scumbags every day. Yeah. But when CBP knowingly, willingly accepts money.
That's a different scenario.
For sex trafficking.
Totally
children.
agree. That's a different scenario.
It's the epitome of evil.
I wish that law enforcement had what we had in the military, right? The Uniform Code of Military Justice. Because in that code, if a commanding officer gave us an order that we knew to be illegal and wrong, you could call out your superior officer and report them to the chain of command and say, "I'm not going to adhere to that order because it's an unlawful order according to the UMCJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice." Cops don't have anything like that, right? I mean, you got your union that'll fight for if you say no, if they throw you off the job. But pretty much if you're out on a scene and you don't seize that Trump building, you don't arrest that innocent person on the subway who's a Marine who choked out a guy who'd been terrorizing people for 10 years, you're going to be fired. You're off the job.
I mean, look. If you want to make the argument that maybe 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, this wasn't how policing was, it was substantially better. Cops were more willing to give leeway. And over the past several years with Daniel Perry and Daniel Penny, it's unquestionable. Cops who knew what they were arresting Owen Schroyer for. I guess the story was one of the guards said to Owen, like, hey, man, I'm familiar with your work or something like that. If you're in law enforcement and you know that what you're doing is wrong, you're evil. Like, you are evil. You are the evil we are desperately fighting against. Because if every single cop in this country believed in the Constitution and virtue and just said outright, like, this man's being arrested for what? Well, he was bullhorning outside the Capitol. He had a permit, but, we don't like what he said. I'm not going anywhere near that. Then how do you put someone in jail if no one's willing to do the job to do it? Because they all just say no.
I know. And we need more real men that would step up and do that. But
the issue is our culture is completely fragmented.
That's
and if you go to the average cop and ask them, they say, I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, the culture has shifted in the last 2 decades to change all that. There was just the Gateway put out, Pundit, one of the Capitol Police officers, put out kind of a hidden hit on one of the January 6 guys. Did you happen to see that?
Mm-mm.
That just dropped. He sent me a message, the January 6th.
There were J6ers who were active or former police officers who did not riot, asked Capitol Police officers if they needed help. There's videos of them standing next to Capitol Police and they're saying something. You can see the guy going like this with his hands talking. And we learned that these guys said to the cops, what can we do to help the situation? Tell us what to do. And they said, I need you guys to do this, that, or other. I said, you got it. And those guys went to prison.
Wow.
Because the Capitol Police will stab you in the back at a moment's notice.
And I would say the Capitol Police working for the feds are a lot different than your county sheriff in your local community. I will say that and stick up for like county sheriffs and some small town police because I think that's a world apart. Just like the CBP we're talking about with that. Case in point, here you go. This one just dropped 3-4 days ago. Former Capitol Police officer Ganel Aquino posts a veiled threat against January 6th political prisoner Jake Lang. Quote, hopes Brooklyn prisoners, that's where they're holding Jake right now, find out Jake is vulnerable and in their facility. Pretty much calling on other prisoners to go hit Jake Lang. That's from a Capitol Police officer.
We're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com. Click join us, become a member, because the members only uncensored show will be up at about 10 p.m. It's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss it. And you're also helping support the show. But most importantly, you can join the members only Discord, which is our mini digital social club. You can talk to like-minded individuals, argue with them. You can even submit questions to call into our after show. So if you want to actually call in and talk to us, become a member. You have to sign up at the $25 per month level or be a $10 member for at least 6 months because we have to have some kind of screening process. Otherwise, we get a bunch of, far left activists just trying to harass us all day. And then we also have our social club popping up in Martinsburg, West Virginia. We're hoping to do Timcast IRL live once a month there. And as a member, you will get an email whenever we're announcing and we have a plan when we know the event is going to be, only through email because they're private events, not open to the public, private members club. And the elite members will get access to our social club. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Should be up in a few months, but let's go. Crispy Joe says, Tim, what is your favorite color? Honestly, I don't think I have one. It's funny because when I was a kid, everyone always asks, what's your favorite color? And I'm like, I would just lie and just say something because I didn't know what that meant.
It's not black. I've never seen you in a different color, by the way.
No, I have a bunch of different color outfits.
But when you do the show, it's always black.
Yeah, I wear the same thing on the show every day. Okay. Sometimes, rarely, I have the half sleeve, the baseball shirts. Mm-hmm. But
the old school jerseys. Yep, a jersey shirt from the 80s. That's what they called them. Look like a baseball jersey from the 80s.
Yeah, I have some of those.
3/4 sleeves. Yeah.
But
Tim's favorite color is wood vinyl paneling. That's why we see it everywhere.
Wood vinyl paneling?
And I love it. I think it's a classic choice. That's why he couldn't describe it as a kid. He was too complicated even then.
By the way, I love your setup. Somebody told me it was like a compound before I came. Other guests you've had, they're like, you're going to love it. It's really cool, the setup.
It's a house. It's a big house.
It's a house, but it doesn't really feel or look like a house.
What does compound mean? What is that?
I don't know. That's what somebody told me further. Like, well, he's got this compound out in the middle of the woods. It's really cool. It's like an older house, but it's multi-level. It's
actually
got the
new.
Studio. It's got the bar. It's got all this stuff. And there's other buildings. And there's
the building's actually really new.
Oh, well, see, then people know what the hell they were talking about.
Yeah, I think it's like 10 years or something.
Yeah, that's for around here. That's new.
Super
really new, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of an old historic area.
And then the new studio where we're moving to is literally a year old.
Nice.
New building.
And you're moving across the border now.
Well, we've been across the border for some time, but the studio operates here, and then most of the work happens over there. Gotcha. Or I should say that's where everything functions.
Are we allowed to say where with all the crazy assholes out there that like want to?
Yeah, it's the Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia tri-state.
Okay.
So we operate all within there. We don't really do anything in Virginia though, because I don't know. But Maryland, we only have just this studio, and then we've actually had a lot going on in West Virginia, but with the constant construction, most of what's going on is construction. Building studios, setting things up, and
I like the
taking a long time.
Rural, regular, soul, heart of the earth, America type people. I love it. And you're close enough to DC, you can fly in and out and
that's
deal with all the bullshit, but you don't have to deal with the bullshit.
When we were thinking of like New York, for instance, if we were in New York, anywhere you are in New York is an hour from the airport. And you're going to go 3 miles and it'll take an hour to get there.
Yeah.
So then I was just like, what does it matter if we're an hour from the airport in DC? It's actually, in my opinion, I would rather be in a drive where you're moving than in New York traffic for an hour where you're stopping and starting.
I live in California, right? Oof. You're explaining what I deal with every day.
Mm-hmm. Takes you an hour to go a couple miles.
5 miles. Yes, I hate it.
Shane H. Wilder says, join the Discord. We just had our 1-year anniversary party on Saturday with games, memories, and schmoozing with the crew. Join the army today. There's another word in there, but I skipped it. Crimson Catnip says, join the Discord. We have Discord. What do I keep saying Discord? We have kitties and cookies. I'm really excited. I just really want to get this club set up at the Martinsburg location so that we can literally have a place to go hang out, because like this weekend we skated, and then after we skated, we were like, now what? And we tried to go to this place. It was called Touch of Texas it's in West Virginia. They have a mechanical bowl. Mm-hmm. They have beach volleyball, cornhole. It looks awesome.
Nice.
And they normally are open at 5, but I guess for St. Patrick's Day, they weren't open till 8. So when we showed up at 5, they were like, we're closed. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we're not doing that.
Just build your own. I heard you have a skate park here, right? Like an indoor one or something?
Well, we have an indoor mini ramp. Outdoor, we have like a hybrid indoor-outdoor skate park-ish. The whole parking lot's got a couple quarter pipes, rails.
Does the whole crew skate? I don't.
No.
Okay.
Serge scoots. He's pretty good, actually.
Okay.
But
right
the new facility is a massive skate park.
Right on.
So we've got a new skate show that we're producing.
I would break something. I won't try that at my age.
I will also say this now that we're live on the show. Spread the word. April 6th is the official opening event contest. We've put out invites to the pros we know and that we're interested. So there's probably going to be a few pro skateboarders. But if you know any skateboarders who you think can survive the 11-foot vert wall drop-in, $10,000 cash prize to the winner. Damn. We are doing submissions.
Do you want to try it?
No. So the email address is contest@boonieshq.com. Email contest@boonieshq.com if you are a skateboarder and you think you can pull this off, and send proof that you can. So we need a demo tape showing you skating large transition ramps or something like this. And then what we're going to do from that is we're going to pull maybe 3 to 5 individuals that we think actually could pull it off. And then you'll be invited out to the opening day contest and jam, where there's going to be $10,000 prize for the drop-in, as well as $25,000 in other bounties for never been done tricks at the new Boonies HQ Park. There'll be a handful of pros there as well, but pro skateboarders doesn't mean that much because most of them make like $30,000 a year. So they're probably, in fact, the pro skateboarders may actually make less than some of the non-pros, because the only reason the non-pros are probably not pros because they work real jobs where they make like $80K a year and then skate on the side. And the pros were like, I'll take 30 a year if I just have to skate. But it's gonna be a big jam. So contest@boonieshq.com is the email, and send an email submission if you think you can do it. Include your social media, include a video of you skating, and then we're going to do our best to try and select a handful of people. We can't invite everybody. The park's not that big. So I think all in all, we might have like 10 to 15 people skating, which actually gets a little hectic. But yeah, let's go.
I've done some dumb shit in my younger years for money, but 10 grand. How tall is this vertical drop in?
It's 11 feet of vert and a 5-foot transition.
And you have to ride it out and not break anything, and then you have
to drop in and ride away.
Yeah,
and
no.
You could practice first, and then you can come back, send us a video.
There is a qualifier requirement as well. We're going to require a preliminary wall ride of everybody. So it's no joke. 11 feet of vert is serious. Very few people in the world could probably do it, but a decent amount of people.
I'm
could
just
do
thinking,
it.
Looking down, going, I would
It looks easier when you're looking down, honestly.
I would,
because you can see the transition, and I'm like, I feel like I could do it. But we've already had a bunch of people claim that they'll get it instantly, and I'm like, okay, well, the first thing that's going to happen is everyone has to do a wall ride, meaning you come from the ground and up the wall, and you have to reach a certain height to prove you can successfully ride the ramp. And then if you can, then we'll allow you the attempt to drop in, because we don't want people to just show up and be like, I'll try it, 10 grand's a lot of money, and then just fall.
Yeah.
It's a 16-foot drop, all in all.
Are you going to try it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, I'm just so good at skating and skateboarding. It would just, no, I'm just kidding.
Tim can pull it off, right? You ride it all the time. It's your ramp.
Maybe 20 years ago. Okay. I do not ride it all the time. It was just built, and 11 feet of vert is not something people normally do. Very few people in the world.
That just sounds scary at my age anyway. So
yeah, and you're on top of a building that's 22 feet. Yeah. All right, let's read some more. We got Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, it's starting. Tyson Foods is firing U.S. citizens so they can hire criminal aliens. They deserve a Bud Light effect into total bankruptcy. No more Tyson chicken.
Agreed. No more nuggets for your kids.
Well, there are other brands. Don't deprive your kids of chicken
nuggets. And by the way, most of the people that they're firing to make room, these aren't new jobs. They're going to be laying people off at certain factories and hiring illegals, I read. And the people they're firing are mostly minorities that probably came here as legal immigrants over the last 10, 20 years that have been working for the company long term. So they're going to have layoffs for some cost cutting for some of their legacy type people, which will probably be legal immigrant American citizens that are minorities to hire illegal minorities. Think about that shit for a minute.
Josh McCluskey says, what do you guys think of Matt Walsh attacking gamers and blocking Lauren Chen, quartering and Geeks and Gamers for criticism of his comments? I didn't know that happened. Does anyone know what happened with that?
I didn't hear that.
No, I didn't know that.
What did Walsh do now?
I gotta start some Twitter drama soon.
Yeah.
I always say don't block anybody. Let them talk their shit. I don't care.
The quartering I could understand, but Lauren Chen?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know about that.
Chris,
More info is needed.
Yeah. We'll do some live updates. Chris, Bloodbath Carb, tagged me on something on Twitter about a movie, being like, have any of the reporters seen this? And I just pretended I didn't see the message because I've seen no movies. It was the most attacked I've ever felt on Twitter. And people regularly tell me how much they hate my voice. So I'm telling you, your editors are brutal, both in the comments on Twitter and on your articles.
I don't know when that was. I don't know the context. Yeah. I do feel like Matt Walsh, I give him an all-around A+ rating. He is a smart guy. He's a good guy. I agree with him on almost everything. But I think he's wrong about video games and anime. That's just about it.
Yeah, definitely wrong.
Yeah.
I like the guy. Didn't hear about that controversy. Liked his documentary. What's a Woman?
He's the one who's always ragging on anime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's totally wrong. It's like, I don't care what kind of art it is. Is the storytelling good? Is it inspirational? Is it? And the challenge that we're facing right now in Western culture is that we are not producing inspiring stories of heroism, self-sacrifice, responsibility, and anime and manga do.
I think what's hard is you're going to have people who operate in similar ideological spheres that you may like, that may have difference of opinion, and maybe they're severe, and you can't expect everyone to agree on everything. I mean, maybe it's terrible that he blocked these people, but also he could still have good takes on other things. They could have good perspective.
Well, I don't know about no blocking, but I can tell you that, as I just said, someone said, why is he wrong? I don't know his exact opinion on it. Probably something silly like cartoons are bad or something like that. Mm-hmm. But if you have children's content that is inspiring to young people, that teaches them good morals, and there are characters that the children want to emulate, and those characters believe in personal responsibility, strong morals, and, rising to the occasion and things like that, never giving up, these are good things. What we're getting right now in Western media is weird woke garbage. Like games where the woke ideology is literally the ideology of the bad guy. The best example being Captain Marvel. In the example we use, because it's probably the easiest for people to recognize pop culture wise, Captain Marvel in the beginning of the movie, she robs a guy for saying she should smile. He's sitting on his motorcycle and he's like, you should smile more. And then she looks at him, and then the next thing you know, the next scene is her wearing his clothes and riding away with his motorcycle, implying she robbed the guy for saying something she didn't like. And yeah, that's what they're making. No. If someone tells you to smile more, you say, okay, I guess. You're allowed to be annoyed. You're not, but it's no one's attacking you by saying something like this. That's what they're making. Then I can turn on anime, and it's a story about a kid who doesn't have any special abilities or powers, so he works out every single day to become as strong as possible so he can compete one-on-one with all the magical people in the world. Send me a reference to Black Clover. I'll use Black Clover as an example. What story do you want your kids to watch? The Marvels, where you've got a diverse cast and Captain Marvel is angry and she's stronger than anyone else in the world or in the universe for no reason, and she robs a guy for saying smile? Or Black Clover, a world where everyone is gifted with magic powers, most people are, but one kid isn't. So what does he do? He works out until he becomes so strong, he's more powerful than the people with the gifted talents. And he's the main character and the hero, and they make fun of him, they call him stupid, but they actually show that his character is like super ripped. And one of my favorite scenes in that manga/anime is when he enters this tournament. It's very, very much in the beginning. And they're all laughing like, he has no magic. How is he possibly going to win? Then as soon as they say, fight, there's a split second where he's so fast, he just slams into the other guy and knocks him out instantly. And they're like, wow, we are so shocked that by pure perseverance and dedication, you can become as powerful as... That's the message kids should be getting. So these people who come out and they say like, anime is bad, is stupid, you shouldn't watch it. And I'm like, we're trying to make content that inspires young people to work hard and to be the best that they can be. Instead, you're getting this generation of incels. A lot of these guys who are incels and voluntary celibates are average guys. It's funny because you see these stories come out and they show an incel guy and you're like, he looks totally normal, but he's got no self-esteem. He doesn't train. He doesn't work out. He doesn't skate. He doesn't play music. He doesn't play football or basketball or baseball. He doesn't lift. He doesn't run. And so he's like, I struggle to socialize. And it's like, we need to be creating media that inspires people.
Yes, on all facets. I was just talking with, and I'm going to forget his name. I apologize. First name's Gabe. I forget his last name, but he worked for DC Comics for 13, 14 years. He's been on my show a couple times now. And he walked out. This was his dream job. He was a little kid. He's probably in his 40s. So he was a little kid 30 years ago, reading comic books, dreaming and drawing that someday I'll work for Marvel or DC. He gets the job at DC. And then all of a sudden, a couple years ago, they go, hey, we want to introduce this new gay character that's going to be a boyfriend to Batman. And he's like, I'm not going to draw a gay Batman. What the hell are you talking about? And he quit. He walked out on the job. Now, he'd been jobless for a bit. He'd been looking. He'd been drawing his own stuff.
Because they did it a gay Superman.
No, I'm pretty sure he told me it was Batman. You can look up his story. It's Gabe Altabi, Altaeb. Anyway, he meets Dean Cain, who played Superman on Smallville, the TV show. And Dean says...
Not on Smallville, on Lois and Clark.
Or Lois and Clark. Thank you for getting it right. Yep. And so he talks to Dean. Dean hears about his plight and says, let me help you connect. So he gets him in touch with folks, and now they're about to drop a brand new monthly, and hopefully it'll be more than that, but a new monthly comic book of new characters he created that are doing exactly what you said. It's pro-America, pro-family, pro-standing up for yourself, a good message. And I think that's what we all have to start doing, is whether it's more podcasts, more independent journalists, the music, television shows, film. When I was at this film for Scott Lebedo, the activist artist from New York City, the film producing company that did his movie is Global Essentia. They're from LA. They're not a, obscure nobody, whatever. And I talked to the producer and owner and I said, wait a minute, you're doing a documentary on a guy that supports Donald Trump and has been a conservative activist in New York City for 35 years, who's been arrested. You were talking about the BLM paint, Tim, earlier. He's the guy that the same day de Blasio painted the yellow, he went over and painted a thin blue line on Staten Island and said, if you can support BLM, I can support my cop brothers that live here on Staten. And they tried to arrest him for it.
Yeah.
So we got to start putting out more content that is pro-America, pro-family, that teaches young men and women to be self-independent, self-reliant, and good people. We used to do that. Again, 70s, 80s, maybe 90s, but not much. We used to have that content.
All right, we got this from Fly Mile High says, Tim, a federal judge in Chicago ruled that illegals are allowed to have firearms. Let's disregard Illinois unconstitutional FOID if you're a criminal alien and disregard background check for them. Okay, on the surface, the Constitution does protect non-citizens the right to keep and bear arms. It applies to everyone, regardless if they're a citizen or not. However, fair point, as someone responded to me on Twitter, they've committed a crime, and through due process, if you're someone who committed a crime, you do not have the right to keep and bear arms. Agreed. So I agree. But I always try to err more on the side of pro firearms. I would prefer it if the cops weren't arresting you for defending yourself. Hey, here's another cop story for you in New Jersey. A woman in PA had a handgun, which is legal, and she was going to Atlantic City. She didn't know New Jersey guns were completely illegal. She crossed the bridge, got pulled over, and politely informed the cop that she had her firearm on with her. And so the cop smiled and said, now you're going to prison for the rest of your life. And she went, what? And the cop smiled as he arrested her. You know what the cop could have done? He could have said, ma'am, New Jersey does not allow firearms. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn your car around at the next exit. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to follow you back into PA where you're going to go home and drop off your firearm and then make your return back to New Jersey. Sound good? Instead, he said, well, you're an old lady who's legally got a firearm, but you crossed the border, which was literally 5 minutes that way because it's right there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to put you in prison for the rest of your life because that's what the cops do in Jersey.
Yeah. I have a different story on my CCW, which I carry everywhere because California's CCW is allowed in about 31 states. I'm at home in my hometown state of Ohio a couple years ago for a benefit concert with my buddy John Rich. I know you know him. He's been on your program. And I'm about to do this Veterans Day thing. And I got an eye infection. So I had to go to the emergency room at like 2, 3 in the morning. And I get there and it's a shady hospital in Cleveland. So they actually have police standing guard outside of the ER in case something crazy happens. And I go into the ER not even thinking because this eye is killing me. Oh shit, I have my gun on me. So I go through, and then at this hospital to get into the back of the ER, you have to go through a metal detector. And so I tell the cop and the hospital security guards as I step up, and I'm like, I don't know how this is going to end, but I got to tell them or I'm going to beep. I go, hey, I really got to get in there and see you. I can't stand this anymore, but I have my gun on me. Here's my CCW for California. I'm totally legal. It is loaded. What do you want me to do? And that cop could have been a dick. He said, I'll tell you what, you were honest. We have a safe in the back where we store our guns when we're not working on our break. I'm going to walk you back there. You're going to hand me your gun. We're going to lock it up. You can go get taken care of in the ER. And when you get done, come see me. And I got it back, and that cop was cool as shit. So like I said, he was my age, though. He was an older cop.
Let's read some more.
He wasn't a 28 liberal one, 28-year-old.
Tybo says, Tyson Foods boycott is going to be a bloodbath. There you go. Misfit Brett says, technically, bloodbath is a synonym for red wave. Perhaps. Busta Ruckus says Merriam-Webster actually defines bloodbath as an economic disaster. It literally does. And then it has an example sentence saying a market bloodbath. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because Joe Scarborough said, I've never heard that term used in an economic context.
It really says more about him than anything else.
Yeah. No, he's just lying because if you Google search market bloodbath, there's stories from today about a tech stock market bloodbath.
Yes.
He's just lying. Let's go. What do we have? Kane Abel says, Tim, if Biden and the Fed are helping criminal aliens into the country, including terrorists, would that not be aiding the enemy, aka treason? I don't think it is treason. I think it's sedition. Treason is typically like they're selling secrets and aiding China, like a major adversary, like one or like a spattering of suspected terrorists. You had that, I think it was a Hezbollah guy. Yeah, these are bad. But I believe treason is specifically if Biden contacted Hezbollah, said, send me your men and I'll sneak them in the country. That would be treason. Biden saying, I will leave the border open so we can gain political power through the census, which will result in the destruction of this country, is sedition.
Sedition. Yeah, I think you're right. Big difference.
Gail Regula says, I was a tourist in Sweden. Sweden sees Minnesota and Wisconsin as conquered territory. Sweden?
Yeah, because
and
they had
part
so
of
many,
Sweden, not the USA.
So many migrants ended up there. Like there's huge influence because it's just where.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because when there was, in the beginning of the country, a lot of German immigrants went to Texas. So you still see a lot of like German, like New Braunfels, Texas. The word is Germanic. You see things like that. And I've heard that St. Paul specifically, a lot of the way the education system, the library system, and the public transportation system is really related to Sweden because that was the influence they brought over.
Grandstanding and hot dogging says, Shmo Yoho, if you're listening to this, you need to make the Trump bloodbath remix. I would make it myself, but I have no talent. Love the show, Tim and crew. Is Shmo Yoho still making content? That's been a long time. The Gregory brothers.
Yeah, that's a while ago. I don't know.
I assume they're still doing something. But back in the day, it was a lot easier to get views on YouTube. There was very few people. Now it's a drop of water in the ocean, Ravenclaw says, will there be any mention of Ben Shapiro's fundraiser for Trump? Yeah, what's that all about? I heard a little bit of it. Ben Shapiro's hosting a fundraiser for Trump or something?
Oh.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Good. Good for him.
Previous DeSantis supporter. I think that's what
Great.
people
Finally,
are
you're
upset
coming
about.
around. Okay. Good.
Zachary McCoy says, Tim, I'm a USMC vet and I've been audited 2 times in the past 4 years. They're definitely using these subtle ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pressure.
Yep.
If you come out and declare we are going to war with insert political group, you get resistance. If you say nothing, but just turn the pressure up a little bit, make sure they get tickets more often, make sure they get audited more often, then you are suppressing and destroying the political faction and allowing your allies to succeed.
It's the weaponization of the bloated bureaucratic state.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you instill fear and people won't step up.
Whalesaurus says, hey, Tim, will you be going back on Joe Rogan before the election and remind everyone to go vote, plus talk about all the funny business? Even Australians can see the rotten pinata that's evolved. Probably not. I don't go on anyone else's shows for the most part anymore. Like Megyn Kelly's people reach out to us all the time, and so do Piers Morgan's. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, yeah, I got no beef, right on. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it. But it's just like the difficulty in going to a studio and or like the, I don't know, remote is just not really worth doing. It's like I work too much throughout the day to take time out to do a remote interview that doesn't really say much. I don't really see the point. We consider doing the Nelk Boys because the Nelk Boys is such a different audience that when they reached out, we said sure, and then they canceled on us at the last minute after we set everything up. But it is what it is. They got their business, we got ours.
Now I know not to invite you on my show. Good. I was about to do that at the end of this show.
Well, I got 2 shows. I got 2.
No, I hear you, brother.
Three shows: a Friday morning show, a Monday through Thursday show, then the nightly show. And it's like, at what point of the day am I going to travel? I'm not.
And it takes you out for multiple days, like if it's midweek or anything. I mean, you can.
Yeah, I'm missing 2 shows of my show for this show, but I also was hoping, while we're here, and I mentioned it earlier in the first hour, about one of the main reasons I wanted to come on your show was to talk about the plight of OAN and how we've been censored from the advertisers to the cable carriers and satellite, all at the behest of the Democrats. There are letters from 4 Democrat senators and 2 United States congressmen, all Democrats, warning providers and advertisers to stay away from OAN. And they listened. That's censorship. So I'm not here to promote Dan. I'm here to promote OAN and the fact that we were censored. That's why I will give up. But you're already established and you're doing well and you're independent. So you don't need to go on a people's show.
We're going to head over to the Uncensored Show. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with all your friends, and head over to timcast.com. Click join us to become a member and support our work directly, because this show is made possible thanks in part to viewers like you. That is the main way that the show operates because of all of our members. So we really do appreciate it. As a member, you get access to the Discord server. I recommend you figure it all out. The instructions are on the website. You sign up, you click Discord, it'll tell you what to do. And then you're in this 24/7 chat room with a bunch of like-minded individuals or people who just want to argue with you. And there's conversations, there's projects being set up, a lot of really great stuff. And you can even call in and talk to us on our members only show. So smash that like button. Like I said, you can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally everywhere at Timcast. Dan, do you want to shout anything out?
I would just say follow OAN. It's OANN.com is the website. If you want to watch, you do have to subscribe. There's places to watch our network for free, but ever since the cancellation of Direct, Verizon, and Frontier 2 years ago, we had to start charging. So it's $4.99 a month. You can sign on the website, OANN.com, or you can also, we have an app called Cloud TV with a K. You get multiple channels for about the same price. So I would say follow them on Truth, on X, Facebook, Instagram. We're all there. It's either OAN or it's One America News. And if you want to follow me, yeah, it's real easy. It's Dan Ball. My show's called Real America. You can. But I'm just trying to get out and do more shows like this to support our network. It's 125 now because we've had to lay a few people off. 125 hardworking young journalists with a guy who loves this country and his 2 sons who were just trying to speak truth to power. I mean, when you talk mom and pop networks, we're the only one out there. The rest of them are all bought and owned by big conglomerates, big corporations. We're one of the only ones that still has a couple guys coming to work every day. They put in the 8, 9, 10 hours along with all of us just trying to speak truth to power. So do me a favor and follow them. That's what I'm here for, man, is to get the network more publicity and so people will look up our story and share it and understand what the bureaucrats, what the deep state can do, even to a news network and an owner worth millions of dollars. They can shut you down. And that's what they've been trying to do to us for the last 3 years.
Cool.
But we're not stopping.
It's been great having you here. I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you, guys.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. If you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at Hannah Claire or HC Brimlow, and I'm on Twitter at HannahClaire.b. And Chris Carr, I was so happy I could finally be on an episode with you. Chris and I talk every single day, so it's cool to see him in person sometimes too.
It's my pleasure. Go to scnr.com for all of your news junkie needs. I am Chris Carr 17 on X, and yeah, great being here. Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you, Dan. Thank you for coming. I am Serge.com. I'm on the internet. I was arguing with some people in the chat. I love to argue on the internet. Please join Discord so you can argue with me personally. It's great. It's fun. Yeah.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in just a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out.